that Tsundere goddess falls in love with me. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Luchuan's Trouble. Rumble. Everyone in the martial arts training ground was terrified. Ko Xiang felt a sense of death crisis in his heart. He looked up at the sky, and his pupils suddenly shrank. This is not. Before he could finish his words, the thunder had already struck him. Bang! A big pit exploded on the ring. The light of the thunder was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. When everyone regained their sight and looked in the direction of Ko Xiang again, they found that there was only a black and charred corpse left there. Everyone was dumbfounded. This result was simply unbelievable. Ko Xiang was actually killed by thunder? This is too weird. It was a sunny day just now, and suddenly a thunder struck down. Could it be that God couldn't stand Ko Xiang bullying people, so he sent down thunder as a punishment? Chen Changguan, who had been planning to rescue Luchuan, was dumbfounded. Ko Xiang, who had fought with him for half his life, was actually killed by a thunder. How many bad things had he done? Everyone at Judo martial arts school was stunned for a few seconds. Su Jingxiu reacted and quickly ran towards the big pit on the ring. She looked at Ko Xiang, who was almost carbonized and could no longer be identified, and cried desperately, "Husband, don't scare me. Wake up and say something to me. I'm your wife." Several disciples gathered around and burst into tears when they saw that Ko Xiang was dead. Luchuan smiled, and his face was a little pale. He thought that the lightning attracting function of Xianzu was really terrifying. The lightning just now would have turned a 6th grade master into charcoal, not to mention the 9th grade master. He didn't intend to let everyone know that he had attracted the lightning just now. After all, there are many masters in the martial arts world. If they knew that he had such a treasure that could attract lightning, they would probably flock to him, and he would instantly become the target of public criticism. He thought for a moment and said loudly, "Everyone, Ko Xiang has done many evil things. He has done so many things that hurt the world behind the scenes. He deserves to be struck by lightning from the sky. I was lucky to escape this disaster, so I advise everyone to do more good deeds and less evil in the future. Otherwise you will really be struck by lightning." Su Jingxiu heard this and cursed. "You are talking nonsense. My husband has never done anything that hurts the world. It's all your fault. If it weren't for the duel with you, he wouldn't be so unlucky to be struck by lightning. You have to pay for my husband's life." Luchuan smiled at her and said, "Mrs. Ko, you have to be careful with what you say. I heard that people who like to make trouble and make trouble are also prone to being struck by lightning. Listen, the thunder in the sky has not dispersed yet." A rumbling sound came from the air at the right time. Su Jingxiu shrank her neck in fear and quickly closed her mouth. Luchuan jumped off the ring, walked to Chen Changguan, and said with a smile, "It seems that I'm lucky even God is helping me." Chen Changguan looked at Luchuan with a puzzled look on his face. Although the lightning came suddenly, he always felt that Luchuan knew that Ko Xiang would be struck by lightning, so he dared to accept the challenge. "Master Chen, my mission is completed, so." Chen Changguan reacted and said with a smile, "Don't worry, little friend Luchuan, I have asked them to prepare the reward." He turned around and took a suitcase from his apprentice and opened it in front of Luchuan. "Little friend Luchuan, there are a total of 8 50-year-old medicinal herbs here. Please keep them." Luchuan was a little surprised. "Master Chen, didn't we agree on 6? Chen Changguan said, "These 2 extra ones are my extra thoughts. Little friend Luchuan, you don't have to be polite." Luchuan smiled and did not refuse. After all, buying medicinal herbs for cultivation is tantamount to burning money, so don't miss it. He took the suitcase and clasped his fists to Chen Changguan. "Master Chen, since the matter is settled, I will take my leave first." Chen Changguan smiled and said, "I'll see you off." The two of them walked all the way to the outside of Chen's martial arts hall. Chen Changguan looked around and saw that no one followed him, so he asked, Friend Luchuan, the thunder just now was probably not just because Ko Xiang did so many evil things, right? Luchuan smiled and did not answer, but said, I'm leaving first, Master Chen, go back. Then he turned and left. Chen Changyuan understood in his heart and paid more attention to Luchuan. Being able to attract thunder out of thin air, this method is no different from ghosts and gods. I'm afraid that only those magic masters can do it. In the future, I must have a good relationship with Luchuan. Maybe this will be a great opportunity for me. Luchuan returned home and put down the medicinal materials. After taking a few Puan pills, he began to recover his own consumption. 2 hours later, Luchuan's state returned to the peak, and he stood up and stretched. He took out his cell phone and saw that Ko Xiang's death by lightning had made the headlines of Yunqing News. Shocking. Judo martial arts school owner Ko Xiang bullied the weak and forced the younger generation to compete without regard for his face, which angered the sky. He was struck by lightning and died on the spot. Breaking news. Pretending to be struck by lightning. Ko Xiang, one of the top 10 masters, was struck by lightning because of pretending to be in front of others and died tragically. Is the arrival of thunder from the sky a sign of moral decline or a distortion of human nature? Let's explore the doubts in the case of Ko, an enthusiastic citizen who was struck by lightning on a sunny day. Ko Xiang was struck by lightning and died. His 4 apprentices said they would take over Judo martial arts school. His master's wife Su Jingxiu was worried that she would faint due to excessive sadness, so she moved to the yard of the 4 apprentices to live together. Ko Xiang, struck by lightning. Click me to watch the movie and amp. Luchuan looked at the news and couldn't help but smile. Fortunately, everyone's attention was focused on Ko Xiang being struck by lightning, and not many people paid attention to me. Now I can continue to practice with peace of mind. Before his strength was strong enough, he didn't want to be the focus of others' attention. The few moves I fought with Ko Xiang today were quite helpful to me. My strength has actually increased a little. It seems that fighting is also a way to improve strength. He felt his current state. Suddenly, a chaotic power appeared. Luchuan frowned and suppressed it immediately. The power disorder is becoming more and more frequent. I must find the reason, otherwise I will go crazy in a short time. He carefully flipped through the inheritance memory. About half an hour later, combining what his grandfather said when the inheritance awakened and the record of the true dragon fate in the inheritance memory, Luchuan came to a conclusion and widened his eyes in disbelief. I have the fate of a true dragon. The dragon yang power in my body is at its peak, so my cultivation speed is amazing, far beyond that of ordinary people. But because of this, my body also has some disadvantages. I must often have sex with others to vent, otherwise I will go crazy and fall into the devil's way. Now, it's only been more than half a month since I embarked on the path of cultivation, and I have already reached the 5th level of key training. According to this speed, I must have sex with others within a week to balance the dragon yang power, otherwise I will go crazy. If the situation is serious, it will cause the dragon yang power to riot, and my body will explode and die. Chapter 52, Rejuvenating Pill. Thinking of the scene where his body exploded directly because he couldn't withstand the riot of Long Yang's power, Luchuan couldn't help but shudder. Although this disadvantage doesn't sound like a bad thing, I don't even have a girlfriend. Where can I find someone to do that kind of thing? Chu Mingyao's figure appeared in his mind. It's a matter of life and death, so I can only be shameless for once. If it really doesn't work, I can only go to a shady massage parlor again. Thinking of this, Luchuan took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Chu Mingyao. Do you have time? I want to treat you to a meal. Not long after, Chu Mingyao called. What do you want to do? Luchuan smiled and said, nothing, I just want to treat you to a meal. Chu Mingyao's tone was cold. Can you be so kind? Luchuan smiled awkwardly. Don't think so badly of me. Come to my company cafeteria at 12 o'clock tomorrow noon. You only have 1 hour. Chu Mingyao said, and then hung up the phone. Luchuan was confused. Is this your period? He put down his phone and stopped thinking about it. I hope I can convince this girl tomorrow. Because the dragon yang power was on the verge of a riot, Lu Chuan no longer dared to continue practicing. He put away the 850-year-old medicinal herbs first. The next day at noon, in the company cafeteria, Chu Mingyao sat alone at a table. The employees around were whispering. The president actually came to the cafeteria to eat, which is really rare. She seems to be waiting for someone, but when the president entertains customers, shouldn't he arrange it in a star-rated hotel? Why is she in the cafeteria? It's probably an unwelcome customer. Keep your voices down. The president has been upset about the competitor these days. Be careful that she will come to scold you later. Lu Chuan came to the company cafeteria, saw Chu Mingyao, and walked over quickly. He smiled and sat down, saying, "Didn't I say I'm treating you to a meal? Why do you have to come to your company cafeteria?" Chu Mingyao said with a straight face, "I have limited time. You can get whatever you want to eat. If you have anything to say, just tell me." Lu Chuan noticed that Chu Mingyao was in a bad mood and felt that she might have encountered some difficulties. He smiled slightly and turned to the window to get 2 meals. He put a meal in front of Chu Mingyao and said, "You should be hungry, eat quickly." Chu Mingyao took a look at the food in front of her and found that it was all her favorite dishes. Her eyes widened. "How do you know I like to eat these?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "I can read minds. Do you believe it?" In fact, he asked Chu Mingyao's secretary when he came just now. Boring. Chu Mingyao rolled her eyes, and her mood was obviously relieved. She picked up the chopsticks and started eating in small bites. Lu Chuan didn't plan to explain his purpose directly. After all, Chu Mingyao was very unhappy at first sight. If he spoke at this time, she might turn hostile on the spot. He smiled and asked, "Are you in trouble? You look so grim." Chu Mingyao glared at him, wiped her mouth with a tissue, and said, "Our company has recently developed a beauty drug. We originally wanted to launch it as the annual blockbuster, so we invested a lot of money in it. But a few days ago, all the research and development information of this beauty drug was stolen by a subordinate I trust very much. I didn't expect that she was sent by our biggest competitor, Furing Beauty Company. On the day the information was stolen, Furing Beauty officially announced that it would release a new beauty drug, and it would be on the market within a week. They also registered a patent for this beauty drug. In this way, all the investment of our company has been used to help others. This drug is the key to our listing. Now that Furing Beauty has set up such a trick, our listing plan is likely to fail." After listening, Lu Chuan nodded thoughtfully. "No wonder you feel like you've eaten gunpowder." Chu Mingyao slammed the table. "What did you say?" Lu Chuan quickly said, "It's just a joke. Actually, I came here today to help you." He planned to help Chu Mingyao solve the problem first, and then put forward his own demands. Chu Mingyao looked at him and snorted. "No one will believe you." Lu Chuan said seriously, "I'm serious. Although I don't know how to do business, if I understand correctly, that drug is the key to your listing. Now that the information has been stolen, that drug has become a competitor's, right?" Chu Mingyao nodded. Lu Chuan asked, "Then you just need to come up with another beauty drug with better effect. Isn't this problem solved?" Chu Mingyao sighed and said, "We have been developing this drug for several years, and the cost of investment is amazing. How can we come up with a better drug in such a short time?" Lu Chuan smiled jokingly, "You can't come up with it, but I can." Chu Mingyao was a little unbelievable. Don't joke. Our beauty drug is already the best on the market. Can you come up with a better one?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Eat first. I'll show it to you later." After the two finished their meal, Lu Chuan asked Chu Mingyao to take him to the warehouse. He found some medicinal materials in the warehouse, and then went to the research room, borrowed the tools inside, and began to refine the pill. Chu Mingyao didn't understand why. She always felt that, although Lu Chuan's medical skills were amazing, it was unreliable for him to say that he could also study beauty drugs. After a long time, Lu Chuan successfully refined a pill and handed it to Chu Mingyao. Chu Mingyao looked at it and asked, "What is this?" Lu Chuan said, "This pill is called the youth pill. After taking it, it can remove impurities from the body, make the skin moisturized and smooth, increase temperament, and delay skin aging." Chu Mingyao looked at Lu Chuan speechlessly and said, do you think everyone is a fool? Even the best beauty drugs on the market can only replenish moisture to the skin and make the skin firmer and whiter. What you said is simply a magic pill. Well, anyone with a little common sense will not believe it. This is the magic pill. Lu Chuan smiled and said, don't be so quick to deny it. Wait until you try the effect. Chu Mingyao took a look at the pill and asked, let me take it? Lu Chuan stared at Chu Mingyao's beautiful face and said, the effect may not be obvious after you take it. Chu Mingyao was so angry that she laughed. Are you praising me for my beauty, or are you making excuses for your medicine? Lu Chuan smiled and said, praising you for your beauty. You are so talkative. Chu Mingyao snorted lightly, and she actually felt like a spoiled child. At this time, a woman with freckles all over her face, dark skin, and heavy dark circles under her eyes came over. This person was Secretary Zhang, who was in charge of handling documents. President, I have sorted out the information you need overnight. Secretary Zhang handed over a stack of information. Lu Chuan's eyes lit up when he saw her and asked, hello, can you try this beauty pill for me? Secretary Zhang looked suspicious. Beauty? Really? There are so many products in our company, but none of them can improve my current skin condition. Lu Chuan smiled and said, I guarantee that this works. Secretary Zhang looked at Chu Mingyao with an inquiring look. Chu Mingyao nodded. Eat it. He was the one who solved the problem with our company's medicine last time. Secretary Zhang's eyes lit up. So it was you who helped our company get through the crisis. Our drug developers praise you all day long. Then she took the anti-aging pill and put it in her mouth. Chu Mingyao quickly observed Secretary Zhang's face and said in confusion, isn't there any change? Secretary Zhang also took out a small mirror, looked at herself, and was slightly disappointed. She smiled and said, even the top experts always make mistakes. Brother, you don't have to be discouraged. I believe that one day you can develop a magic medicine that can really beautify and nourish your skin. Lu Chuan smiled and said, the pill has just been taken, and it hasn't taken effect yet. Don't worry. He glanced at Chu Mingyao and said, I'll come again tomorrow. Then he turned and left. Chu Mingyao looked suspicious, always feeling that Lu Chuan's pill was not as powerful as he said. Chu Mingyao was paying attention to the changes in Secretary Zhang all afternoon. She ran to Secretary Zhang's office every once in a while and stared at Secretary Zhang's face to observe. Everyone in the company thought that Secretary Zhang had a freckle on her face, and they all came to watch. Unfortunately, Secretary Zhang's face did not change at all. Chu Mingyao clenched her fists angrily. Damn it, I was fooled by this bastard again. She left work dejectedly and no longer had any hope for Lu Chuan's anti-aging pill. The next morning, Chu Mingyao came to the company in low spirits. As soon as she arrived at the office floor, she saw everyone gathered together and exclaimed from time to time. She frowned, walked over to take a look, and found that the person surrounded by them was a beautiful woman with fair skin and outstanding temperament. She felt that this woman seemed to have seen somewhere, but she couldn't remember it for a while. Chu Mingyao was upset by the chattering of the crowd and shouted, what are you doing? Is there no discipline during working hours? Everyone was startled, and they quieted down and moved aside. Chu Mingyao looked at the beautiful woman and asked, excuse me, which company are you from? I don't think I've seen you before. What do you want to do in our company? The beautiful woman couldn't help but cover her mouth and giggle. The people around her also tried their best to hold back their laughter. Chu Mingyao frowned. What are you laughing at? The beautiful woman said, President, I'm Secretary Zhang. Don't you recognize me? Chapter 53, My Body. Chu Mingyao was stunned for a moment. Are you really Secretary Zhang? Secretary Zhang smiled and nodded. It's me, absolutely. Chu Mingyao was full of disbelief and quickly stepped forward and pinched Secretary Zhang's face with her hands. You're not wearing makeup? Secretary Zhang was full of pride. No, President, with my current appearance, why would I need to wear makeup? Chu Mingyao took a deep breath and asked, is it the pill that Lu Chuan gave you that worked? Secretary Zhang nodded seriously. Lu Chuan is really amazing. He can actually develop this kind of magic pill. If we can get the recipe of this magic pill, even if Fear and Beauty steals our information, they will never be able to compete with us in their lifetime. The others nodded in agreement and cast envious eyes at Secretary Zhang. President, I wonder if Mr. Lu Chuan still has this anti-aging pill. Can you help me buy one? I'm willing to pay 200,000. A female employee asked. 200,000 is not enough. After taking this anti-aging pill, you can even save on cosmetics. 500,000 is not expensive. Everyone talked about it and expressed their desire to buy the anti-aging pill from Lu Chuan. Chu Mingyao was stunned. I actually misjudged him again. She looked at everyone and said, you all go back to work first. The anti-aging pill is kept secret for the time being, and you are not allowed to disclose it to anyone. If Lu Chuan is willing to give me the recipe of the anti-aging pill, I will notify you. Everyone nodded, their expressions full of expectation. Chu Mingyao went to the office and couldn't wait to call Lu Chuan. Aren't you going to come here today? I'm already at work. Why haven't you arrived yet? Come quickly. Half an hour later, Lu Chuan sat down in the tea area of Chu Mingyao's office and asked with a smile, has Secretary Zhang become more beautiful? Chu Mingyao nodded, looked at Lu Chuan a little embarrassedly, and said, yes. I'm sorry, I wronged you. Lu Chuan's mouth curled up, took out a piece of paper, and put it on the table. This is the recipe of the Zuan pill. Chu Mingyao's eyes lit up, and she immediately reached out to take it and take a look. Lu Chuan reached out and pressed the recipe. Chu Mingyao glanced at him, understood what he meant, and immediately took out a bank card and put it in front of Lu Chuan. There is 20 million in this card, which is part of the cost of purchasing the Zuan pill recipe. If you are willing to sell the Zuan pill recipe to me, we can sign a cooperation agreement. I will bear all the costs of the production, and promotion of the Zuan pill, and once the Zuan pill is on the market, no matter how much it sells, you can share 20% of the profit. After that, she put another contract in front of Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan coughed twice and said, I don't want money or dividends. Chu Mingyao was puzzled. What do you want? For some reason, she instinctively felt a sense of foreboding. Lu Chuan looked at Chu Mingyao seriously and said, I want you to do me a favor. It's about my life. Chu Mingyao immediately became serious and said, you said, if I can help, I will definitely help. The anti-aging pill changed her view of Lu Chuan again. He took the initiative to help her when she was in crisis, so she would certainly not be stingy in helping him. Lu Chuan didn't dare to speak directly, but beat around the bush. Have you seen the news about Ko Xiang of Judeo Martial Arts School being killed by lightning? Chu Mingyao nodded, looked at Lu Chuan and said, I didn't expect you to be so brave that you dared to accept Ko Xiang's challenge. Lu Chuan said, then don't you think my strength has improved a little too fast? More than half a month ago, I was just an ordinary delivery man. Chu Mingyao thought about it, rolled her eyes, and said, oh, I know you are very powerful, okay, but you still want me to praise you. What does this have to do with what you just said? Lu Chuan said, my strength has improved so quickly because I have a special physique, and this specialness has a price. Then he told Chu Mingyao that, if he didn't have sex with anyone within a week, he would explode and die. Ahem, I was forced to come to you for help. After all, Lu Chuan looked at Chu Mingyao with a guilty face. The seriousness on Chu Mingyao's face gradually turned into anger, and she bit her lip subconsciously. You just have to joke with me like this, don't you? Lu Chuan quickly said, I'm not kidding. It's absolutely true. And in this way, the coldness in your body will be completely eliminated, and you won't have to suppress it every once in a while in the future. This is a win-win situation for us. Chu Mingyao slammed the table. Lu Chuan, I thought I had wronged you, and thought I had too many prejudices against you. I have tried very hard to change my opinion of you, but I didn't expect you to be so shameless. Are you really so greedy for my body? You even tried to fool me by saying that you will explode and die if we don't have sex. Tell me, is there anyone in this world who exploded because they didn't do that kind of thing? Lu Chuan was sweating profusely. I'm different from them. Chu Mingyao's chest heaved. Indeed, I have never seen anyone as shameless as you. Lu Chuan looked anxious, not knowing how to explain. If he confessed that he was a cultivator now, Chu Mingyao would probably treat him as a lunatic and drive him out. It is true that I did not want to be engaged to Long Heo, but we have already held the engagement party. I'm now the future daughter-in-law of the Long family, a person who is about to get married, but you have repeatedly tried to trick me into having sex. Don't you think you are being too much? Chu Mingayeo was excited, and her eyes were red. Seeing this, Lu Chuan said in a panic, "Don't get me wrong, I don't mean that. If you don't want to, forget it. I'm also forced to ask for your opinion." Tears slid down Chu Mingayeo's cheeks. She turned her head to the side and said resolutely, "I don't want the prescription of the anti-aging pill. You go away. I don't want to see you again in the future." Lu Chuan opened his mouth and wanted to explain, but in the end he couldn't say a word. He sighed helplessly, pushed the prescription of the anti-aging pill in front of Chu Mingayeo, and said, "You can use the prescription. I don't want any reward, and I won't ask you for anything." After that, he got up and left. Chu Mingayeo took a deep breath, picked up the doll pillow beside her, and punched it hard. How can you be so lustful, shameless, vulgar, and useless? On the road, Lu Chuan walked a little disappointed. Knowing this would be the result, I still came here to cause trouble. I'm really out of my mind. What should I do now? Just as he was strolling to relax, his cell phone rang. It was Ningxin calling. "Hey, you haven't contacted me for so long. Have you forgotten about me as your girlfriend?" Ningxin's resentful voice sounded. Lu Chuan's eyes turned and asked, "Do you really want to be my girlfriend?" Chapter 54 Sister Hang is here. Ningxin didn't expect Lu Chuan to ask a question suddenly, and stammered, "No, not really. Only a fool wants to be the girlfriend of a guy like you. I was just kidding." Lu Chuan sighed, "Forget it. I also said that, if you become my girlfriend, I will give you a surprise." Ningxin quickly said, "First of all, I'm just a little curious. I don't have any other intentions, and I don't want to be your girlfriend. What is the surprise first?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "The surprise is that, if you become my girlfriend, you can get a chance to spend 100,000 yuan to ask me to sleep with you. Considering that you are an old customer, I can give you a 20% discount." Ningxin was silent for a few seconds. Then she roared, "Get out." Lu Chuan's ears were almost deafened, and he quickly put the phone away and found that Ningxin had hung up the phone. He laughed at himself. Of course he didn't intend to really ask Ningxin for help, just because he was in a bad mood. He just made a joke to relieve his boredom. There must be a way to get to the mountain. If it doesn't work, just go to a fake massage shop. It's just a matter of spending some money. Lu Chuan comforted himself and continued walking. Back home, Lu Chuan felt that his state of mind was becoming more and more impetuous. He knew that this was the influence of the impending riot of Lan Guyang's power. There was no way to practice in this state, otherwise he would go crazy if he was not careful. In order to calm his mind, Lu Chuan looked for the experience of his ancestors and the inherited memory, and found that in this situation, most of them would choose to practice calligraphy or painting to suppress the impetuousness in their hearts. There is a set of calligraphy inheritance called White Crane Book in the inherited memory. It is rumored that this is a set of calligraphy created by a great man named Bei to suppress his inner demons. It combines Bei's practice experience and his understanding of the improvement of the state of mind. Later generations only need to copy White Crane Book to improve their state of mind, making their will firm and not disturbed by the inner demons. Lu Chuan felt that this White Crane Book was very suitable for him now, so he ran to buy a brush and rice paper and began to copy it. Because of the refreshing effect of the purple cloud pearl, Lu Chuan's learning speed was very fast. He had never touched calligraphy in the past, but in just one afternoon, he reached the level that many calligraphy masters had accumulated for many years. Of course, a large part of the reason is that the understanding of calligraphy in White Crane Book has reached the pinnacle. Lu Chuan can feel the realm of calligraphy of immortals, which is naturally not comparable to those calligraphers on Earth. Copying calligraphy has indeed reduced Lu Chuan's impetuousness a lot. 10 o'clock in the evening. Mu Nanking returned home with a bad face. Lu Chuan felt that Mu Nanking was not in a good mood and asked, "Sister-in-law, what's wrong with you? It seems that you are worried." Mu Nanking smiled and said, "No, I'm just too tired today. I'll go back to my room to rest first." Lu Chuan nodded without thinking much. When Mununking entered the room, Lu Chuan stared at her door and thought of her previous willingness to sacrifice herself to save him. Soon, he shook his head vigorously and said, although I have no relationship with her to some extent, sister-in-law is just a respectful title, but she is so good to me, I shouldn't have such an idea about her. Taking a deep breath, Lu Chuan continued to copy calligraphy, and his mood soon calmed down. 5 days later, the rice paper in front of Lu Chuan has piled up like a mountain. His pen moves like a dragon, and the force penetrates the back of the paper. The 4 big characters "I'm the only one" are vividly displayed on the paper. It exudes a majestic momentum, which is not much inferior to the works of some calligraphy masters. The most important thing is that Lu Chuan's calligraphy condenses the state of mind of a practitioner. Ordinary people can easily fall into it and feel the heroic spirit of the author's heart just by taking a look. He stopped writing, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The signs of the riot of Longyang power are becoming more and more obvious. Even practicing calligraphy can't calm me down. It seems that I have to find a shady massage shop tonight to solve it. After putting away the pile of rice paper, Lu Chuan sat on the sofa, took out his mobile phone with a guilty conscience, and searched for relevant information. Will I get an infectious disease if I go to a shady massage parlor for the first time? Do women in shady massage parlors have regular physical examinations? Where can I find a clean and hygienic shady massage parlor? After reading the search results, Lu Chuan felt terrible. Is this Baidu search really accurate? Why do I feel like I will get cancer if I go to a shady massage parlor? Why do they recommend me to consult an online doctor? Can I consult a doctor for this thing? He turned off his phone, and he was a little reluctant to go to a shady massage parlor. But if I don't go, I can only wait to explode and die. Sighing helplessly, Lu Chuan got up and planned to go outside first to see if he could try his luck and find a decent massage parlor. In front of a remote alley, Lu Chuan looked at a small shop with a massage sign not far away. There were several heavily made up and flashy women waving at him. Brother, come on, we have an exciting show here. Lu Chuan was quite embarrassed, struggling with whether he should go over or not. At this time, a black Mercedes stopped by the roadside. The car window rolled down, and sitting inside were Gu Hongseong and Leng Feng. Gu Hongseong looked at Lu Chuan not far away with suspicion, and asked, what is he doing? Leng Feng showed a smile on his face. It seems that he is lacking love. Lack of love. Gu Hongseong frowned. Go call him over. Leng Feng nodded, got out of the car, and walked to Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan turned his head to look in Gu Hongseong's direction, and hurried over. He got into the car, looked at Gu Hongseong and asked, Sister Hong, why are you here? Gu Hongseong looked at him and asked, what were you doing just now? Lu Chuan was full of embarrassment, coughed twice and said, oh, I passed by here, and saw the people inside waving to me. I thought they needed help, so I wanted to go over to see. Leng Feng laughed out loud. Lu Chuan gave Leng Feng a pleading look, hoping that he could save his face. Gu Hongseong looked suspicious, but did not ask any further questions. Instead, she said seriously, do you know why I came to you? Lu Chuan shook his head, I don't know. Gu Hongseong said unhappily, do you know that Ko Xiang is Long Xianaya's man? Lu Chuan was stunned, and said, I know, but so what? He bullied the weak, and forced me to go to the ring, but unfortunately I was struck to death by lightning. Does Long Xianaya want to avenge Ko Xiang? That's too unreasonable. Gu Hongseong laughed and said, Long Xianaya has come all the way to this position, and I don't know how much blood is on his hands. You actually want to reason with him? I really don't know whether to say you are naive or stupid. Lu Chuan frowned. He really wants to avenge Ko Xiang? Gu Hongseong said lightly, I had this plan. After all, you are nothing in his eyes, but I stopped it. Her beautiful eyes fell on Lu Chuan, full of teasing. Don't worry, he won't bother you. Lu Chuan breathed a sigh of relief quietly, looked at Gu Hongseong gratefully, and said, Sister Hong, thank you. You and I just met by chance, but you are so good to me. I don't know how to repay you. Gu Hongseong said with a bit of complaint, I spent a lot of time to protect you, and arouse Ko Xiang's suspicion, so I haven't been in a good mood these days. You are the culprit, so you have to compensate me. I will take care of all your time today. Lu Chuan glared and said quickly, but Sister Hong, Gu Hongseon's eyes turned cold. What? Are you unhappy? Do you really think I don't know what those women in the alley do? Am I not as good as those vulgar women? Lu Chuan's face was full of helplessness, so he had to nod. Okay, Sister Hong will take care of my time today. He could only wait until he finished accompanying Sister Hong in the evening before thinking of a solution. Gu Hongseon then regained her smile, looked at Leng Feng, and said, "Drive." Leng Feng started the car, glanced at Lu Chuan in the rearview mirror, and said, "Boy, Sister Han doesn't have much free time, and she is willing to spend this precious time on you, so don't be ungrateful." Gu Hongseon frowned slightly. Leng Feng said nothing more and drove away. Lu Chuan looked at Gu Hongseon, and only then did he remember that she was just a poor person who was regarded as a forbidden delicacy by Long Xian'er. Gu Hongseon glared at Lu Chuan. "Don't look at me with your sympathetic eyes. I'm just in a bad mood and want to relax." Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Sister Hong, you are so beautiful." Gu Hongseon was stunned, turned her head to look out the window. Boring. On the way, Lu Chuan asked, "Sister Hong, where are we going?" Gu Hongseon showed a hint of expectation on her face and said, "To participate in a calligraphy exhibition. My favorite calligraphy master, Master Wen Ezekian, will also be there. I hope I can buy his works." Lu Chuan's eyes lit up. "Sister Hong, you like calligraphy?" Gu Hongseon glanced at him. "Why, is it not okay?" Ever since she became Long Xian'er's lover, she has become a scheming woman who relies on men to get to the top in the eyes of everyone. When people see her, they think of some obscene and vulgar words, but they don't know that she was once a well-known talented woman, proficient in piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, among which calligraphy is particularly outstanding. Long Xian'er regards her as a forbidden delicacy, and she feels suffocated by the pressure of trying. When she is in a bad mood, she relies on calligraphy to relieve herself. This is one of the few things that allows her to keep her original heart unchanged. Lu Chuan quickly said, No, I want to say that I actually know a little calligraphy, which I just learned recently." Gu Hongseon laughed. "You don't seem to have any artistic talent. You should spend all your time on martial arts, and don't delay yourself." Lu Chuan immediately raised his head. "Sister Hong, you may have misjudged this. My current level may not be worse than the Wen Ezekian you mentioned." Gu Hongseon rolled her eyes. "Why do you still like to brag?" Lu Chuan said seriously. "I'm serious, I'm not bragging." Gu Hongseon laughed jokingly. "Master Wen has been famous in the calligraphy world for a long time. You just started learning calligraphy, and you can catch up with him. If that's the case, I will leave Long Xian'er now. Even if he chases me, I will be your woman." Chapter 55. Hypocritical. Lu Chuan looked helpless. "Sister Hong, why don't you believe me?" Gu Hongseon chuckled. "Okay, Master Wen is my idol. You should have a limit when joking." Lu Chuan had no choice but to say nothing more. Not long after, Leng Feng parked the car in front of an art gallery. Lu Chuan and Gu Hongseon got out of the car, and Leng Feng left on his own. Gu Hongseon was originally a calm and steady woman, but at this moment she became a little excited. Seeing her like this, Lu Chuan muttered to himself, "Is this Wen Ezekian's calligraphy really so charming? It actually makes Sister Hong so excited." The two entered the art gallery. The hall was filled with various calligraphy works. Wen Ezekian's calligraphy was placed in the most conspicuous position in the center of the hall. Gu Hongseon ran over with shining eyes, staring at the calligraphy carefully to appreciate it. Lu Chuan also walked over and took a look, and found that the level of these calligraphy was indeed not low, and they were worthy of the word master, but compared with the real masterpieces handed down from generation to generation, they still lacked a bit of artistic conception. It has both style and characteristics, but the writing is still a little stiff, and it lacks artistic conception. This level is more than a step behind me. I didn't expect that I relied on the white crane calligraphy and the refreshing function of the purple cloud pearl to surpass these so-called masters in calligraphy in just 5 days. It's no wonder that Sister Hong didn't believe it. Lu Chuan showed a hint of pride on his face. Gu Hongseon walked to the work with the most viewers and stared at the 4 big characters self-improvement written on it and was stunned. This should be Master Wen's best work at present. I see the power of endless life in it. Gu Hongseon muttered to herself. Lu Chuan took a look and found that this work did have a little more artistic conception than the others, but it was only superficial. So he commented, the word endless life is indeed expressed, but the word self-improvement has no artistic conception, and the writing is even a little tired, with no sense of power at all. It seems that Master Wen's heart is exhausted. Hearing this, the people around immediately cast contemptuous eyes at Lu Chuan. Another self-righteous guy. Can these knowledge kings get out? They clearly don't understand art, but they still try to pretend to be cool. Master Wen's work is worth millions, but he said it's worthless. He's really blind. I hate it most when these half-knowledgeable guys come here to pretend to be masters. Gu Hongseon frowned, looked at Lu Chuan angrily, and said, I asked you to come here to accompany me to relax, not to make trouble for me. Lu Chuan shrugged, okay, I won't say anything. The two walked around the exhibition hall for a while. Master Wen is here. Someone shouted. Everyone suddenly became excited and rushed to the door. An old man with grey hair, slightly fat, and a square face, wearing a mandarin jacket, walked in surrounded by a group of people. Master Wen, I'm your fan. Master Wen, please sell me a piece of your work. I'll pay any price. Master Wen, please accept me as your apprentice. Zhang Yuan, Wei Ziqian's apprentice, stood up and shouted, be quiet. What if you shout and scream and scare my master? Everyone immediately fell silent, their faces still filled with admiration. Wei Ziqian walked to the center of the hall with his head held high, with a hint of arrogance on his face, and said some polite words to everyone. Then it was time for calligraphy exchange. Everyone enthusiastically asked Wei Ziqian questions about calligraphy, and Wei Ziqian answered them one by one. During the break, Wei Ziqian glanced at Gu Hongseon and whispered to Zhang Yuan, it seems that the woman is also my fan. Go and ask her for her contact information, and ask her to come to the hotel to see me in the evening. I will discuss calligraphy with her in depth. Zhang Yuan quickly said, Master, that woman seems to be Long Xianao's lover, Gu Hongseon. I'm afraid we can't get her. Wei Ziqian frowned. It turned out to be her. What a pity. Then he suddenly smiled. But her coming here is a good opportunity for me to become famous. Zhang Yuan was puzzled. Master, what do you mean? Wei Ziqian sneered. Just watch. The two of them spoke very cautiously and in a low voice. But after Lu Chuan practiced Qi at the 5th level, his hearing was far beyond that of ordinary people, and he heard the conversation between the two people clearly. He looked at the master and apprentice with contempt on his face. I didn't expect this old thing to be a hypocritical person. At this time, Gu Hongseon couldn't bear it anymore, and was about to walk towards Wei Ziqian. Lu Chuan quickly stopped her. Sister Hong, this Wei is not as good as you think, and his calligraphy is not worth mentioning. If you like, I can write a few for you. Let's not waste time here. Gu Hongseon's face sank. My patience is limited. Don't think I won't get angry with you. She walked around Lu Chuan, walked to Wei Ziqian, bowed respectfully, and said, Master Wei, I have admired you for a long time. Your works gave me strength when I was at my darkest. Can I buy your painting of self-improvement? Wei Ziqian turned his head and glanced at Gu Hongseon, and the smile on his face disappeared instantly. Are you the mistress that Long Xianao kept? Everyone turned their heads to look at Gu Hongseon. Gu Hongseon. It's really her. I was just looking at Master Wen's works just now, and I didn't notice that someone like her is also a fan of Master Wen. Is she trying to package herself with calligraphy art? Please don't insult the word art, okay? Gu Hongseon was stunned. The word mistress pierced her heart like a needle. Her face turned pale, and she lowered her head slowly. Yes, it's me. Wei Ziqian snorted coldly. My works are for people who yearn for elegance. Look at your fickle appearance. Do you have anything to do with elegance? Gu Hongseon didn't expect her idol to evaluate her like this, and her breathing became much heavier. I'm sorry, it's me. I don't deserve it. Wei Ziqian looked arrogant. Go away. I will never sell my works to people like you in this life. Everyone cheered. Master Wei is really a clear stream in the calligraphy world. Old Wei is wise. The art of calligraphy must not be desecrated by such a woman. After today's incident, Old Wei's reputation in the calligraphy world will rise a few more points. Wei Ziqian's eyes flashed with a hint of teasing. He just wanted to step on Gu Hongseon to win some good reputation for himself. Zhang Yuan suddenly realized and gave his master a thumbs up. Gu Hongseon stood there disappointed, her body trembling. With her temper, if someone humiliated her like this, she would definitely find someone to cut him into pieces. But Wei Ziqian was her idol. Although she was angry, she did nothing in the end and turned to leave. Lu Chuan sighed and grabbed her arm. Gu Hongseon looked up at Lu Chuan, then lowered her head and tugged at her hand. "Let me go." Lu Chuan didn't listen, but turned to look at Wei Ziqian and cursed. "You old man, you keep calling me a mistress and a fickle woman. With this kind of quality, are you worthy of the title of master?" Gu Hongseon was dumbfounded. She didn't expect Lu Chuan to scold Wei Ziqian directly for her. Wei Ziqian was furious. "Who do you think you are? How dare you teach me a lesson here?" The apprentice Zhang Yuan said angrily, "Boy, my master is a recognized master of calligraphy. He said that this woman is fickle, so this woman is fickle. If you want to defend her, then you are the same kind of cheap woman as her." Lu Chuan snorted. "Why are you pretending? You didn't look so serious when you were staring at someone's butt just now." Zhang Yuan panicked. You are talking nonsense. Who is looking at her butt? Don't slander people here." Lu Chuan looked at Wei Ziqian again. "And you, old thing, you often go to the hotel with female fans, right? A hypocritical hypocrite who looks righteous dares to pretend to be a master. Where is your face?" Wei Ziqian's face changed, and he pointed at Lu Chuan tremblingly and shouted, "Asshole! I have earned my reputation with my level. If you slander my innocence again, I will sue you." Lu Chuan sneered, "With your level, you are not even as good as me. Don't show off here." Zhang Yuan shouted, "Everyone, this guy not only slandered the innocence of me and my master, but also made wild remarks and belittled his level. Please judge, is my master really as bad as he said?" Everyone immediately began to help Wei Ziqian and cursed in the art gallery. One person shouted, "It turned out to be this guy. He slandered Master Wei's work at that time and belittled the masterpiece of self-improvement. He is too arrogant." Someone looked at Lu Chuan angrily. "Since you dare to comment on Master Wei like this, and you said that Master Wei's level was not as good as yours, why don't you compete with Master Wei on the spot, and we will comment on it on the spot to see if you are really capable or just trying to attract attention." Everyone echoed, "That's right. Master Wei, compete with him." Wei Ziqian narrowed his eyes, stared at Lu Chuan and asked, "Do you dare?" Lu Chuan couldn't help but curled the corners of his mouth. "Prepare paper and pen." Chapter 56 Master Lu. Everyone brought 2 tables, spread rice paper, and placed brushes on them. Gu Hongseon walked up to Lu Chuan, took a deep breath, and said, "There is no point in doing this, let's go." Lu Chuan smiled and said, "Sister Hong, trust me once, just be prepared to be my fan." Gu Hongseon couldn't help laughing, and her mood eased a little, saying, "I admit that I overestimated Wei Ziqian's character, but his level is there, and you will only make people laugh if you do this." Lu Chuan said seriously, "Even if it's to help you vent, I won't leave." Gu Hongseon's eyes flashed, staring at Lu Chuan for a long time, and didn't speak again. At this time, Zhang Yuan came over and sneered, "Boy, since you agreed to compete with my master, we should bet on something, otherwise this competition will be meaningless." Lu Chuan nodded. "What do you want to bet on?" Zhang Yuan said, "If you lose, kneel on the ground and bark like a dog in front of everyone." "Okay, if I win, you just ask your master to give me his ID number." Lu Chuan replied. Zhang Yuan was puzzled. "What do you want his ID number for?" Lu Chuan said calmly, "Don't worry about it." Zhang Yuan thought for a moment and said, "Okay, but you definitely can't win, so think about how to learn to bark like a dog." Lu Chuan curled his lips and walked to one of the tables. Wei Ziqian looked at Lu Chuan confidently and asked, "Boy, what do you want to write?" Lu Chuan said, "Just write the 4 words self-improvement and perseverance." Wei Ziqian laughed. "I admire your courage, but if a person only has courage, then he is just a fool." Recently, his understanding of calligraphy has deepened a bit. Now let him write the 4 words self-improvement and perseverance. He will only write better. Lu Chuan didn't care and picked up the brush. Everyone was full of sarcasm. "He's so pretentious. People who don't know him would really think he's some kind of master. Master Wen's unremitting self-improvement has become a label in the calligraphy world. He's really arrogant. It's good that way. With comparison, we can more deeply understand the mystery of Master Wen's works. Gu Hongseong sighed. Is he just showing off his courage, or is he really confident in his level? I've been through so much criticism over the past few years. This little humiliation is nothing to me. But he's so serious about it. What a fool. Zhang Yuan shouted. Everyone, please be quiet. The competition starts now. Everyone shut up immediately. Wei Ziqian picked up the pen, looked at Lu Chuan with disdain, and began to create. His writing was open and closed, and the strength control was extremely precise. Everyone nodded secretly. Master Wei is Master Wei. Just by putting pen to paper, people know that this is a superior work. Lu Chuan also began to write. His movements were smooth and flowing, and he exuded a sense of high spirits, as if the process of writing had become a part of art, and the people watching were intoxicated. Everyone was shocked, and the whole hall was silent, as if they were afraid that making a sound would affect Lu Chuan's creation. Gu Hongseong's eyes changed from frustration to surprise, and then from surprise to disbelief. She stared at Lu Chuan in a daze, her lips moved slightly, and finally she didn't dare to say anything to affect Lu Chuan's creation. Not long after, both of them finished their creations. Wei Ziqian looked at his work with satisfaction. This time the level has been raised to a higher level than last time. It seems that Wei Ziqian, will be famous in the calligraphy world again. He looked up and glanced at everyone and found that they were all holding their breath and concentrating, and said complacently, they must be shocked by my new work. At this time, Lu Chuan stopped writing. Everyone seemed to be short of oxygen and took a deep breath. The way they looked at Lu Chuan changed drastically. Everyone was excited, with shame, regret, and spontaneous admiration in their eyes. Wei Ziqian didn't even look at Lu Chuan's work, and said proudly, everyone, make your choice. Zhang Yuan came up with a pale face. Master. Wei Ziqian raised his hand. Don't talk, let me enjoy everyone's admiration. Everyone instantly gathered in front of Lu Chuan's table, and became extremely respectful. Master, you are the real master. We were really blind before. Master, please don't take it to heart. I thought I had read all the top calligraphy in the world, until I saw the master's work. I realized how short-sighted I was. Wei Ziqian's eyes widened instantly. He couldn't believe it, and pulled Zhang Yuan to ask, what does he mean by this? Zhang Yuan recalled Lu Chuan's amazing writing process, and said helplessly, Master, you should see it yourself. Wei Ziqian frowned. No matter how much I look at it, this kid's level can never be better than mine. He looked at the crowd and said coldly, everyone, what's so good about his broken words? My calligraphy surpasses the original level. Why don't you come and appreciate it? Everyone made way. A man smiled and said, Mr. Wei, I'm afraid you lost this competition. You should take a look at the master's work. Wei Ziqian narrowed his eyes, and the two words Mr. made him feel like a thorn in his side. He walked to Lu Chuan's table and looked down at the words on it. When his eyes fell on the first word, he was stunned. A vigorous and uplifting atmosphere rushed towards him, and the high-spirited artistic conception made him fall into it at once. Seeing this calligraphy, he felt the true tenacity and the endless momentum of not wanting to sink. How is this possible? There is such a strong calligraphy in the world. Wei Ziqian staggered and almost fell to the ground. A look of dejection appeared on his face. Lu Chuan's calligraphy made him lose completely, and he was unable to refute. I lost. Wei Ziqian lowered his head, and all his previous pride disappeared. Lu Chuan smiled. Thank you. Wei Ziqian raised his head again, looked at Lu Chuan unhappily, and said, I admit that your level is indeed higher than mine. At your age, you can have such achievements in calligraphy, and you deserve the word genius, but you slandered me, and insulted my reputation at that time. This is not the behavior of a true master. You must apologize to me. Zhang Yuan agreed. Yes, you must apologize. Many people nodded. Character is also an important basis for everyone to judge a person. Lu Chuan's calligraphy level is very high, but if he insults people casually, he will not be qualified to be respected as a master. Lu Chuan smiled and said, don't worry. According to the bet just now, you should tell me your ID number. Everyone looked at Wei Ziqian. Under pressure, Wei Ziqian had to tell Lu Chuan his ID number. It's just an ID number. What's wrong with giving it to him? Anyway, many places now require ID cards. He stared at Lu Chuan and shouted, I have completed the bet, and now it's your turn to apologize to me. Lu Chuan ignored him and walked to Gu Hongxiang. Gu Hongxiang looked at Lu Chuan at a loss. Lu Chuan, I'm sorry, I underestimated you. I didn't expect. Lu Chuan interrupted her and said with a smile, you can talk about praising me later. Sister Hong, let your people help check Wei Ziqian's hotel room booking record first. He handed over Wei Ziqian's ID number. Gu Hongxiang was stunned. What are you checking this for? Lu Chuan said, to expose the true face of Wei Ziqian, the hypocrite. Gu Hongxiang was full of doubts, but she still followed Lu Chuan's request and asked someone to check Wei Ziqian's hotel room booking record. With her means, this kind of thing is a piece of cake. Soon, Gu Hongxiang received a room booking record. When she saw the content above, her beautiful eyes widened. He actually checked into rooms with 5 different women in 1 month. Lu Chuan took her phone with a smile and went to the art museum's office to ask someone to help print out the check-in records. What is this guy doing? Wei Ziqian frowned. Zhang Yuan said, who cares? Anyway, if he doesn't apologize today, this matter will not be over. Lu Chuan came over and handed out the printed check-in records to everyone. Everyone, this is the check-in record of this so-called Master Wei. You can see whether I should apologize to him after you take a look. Everyone took it in surprise. Someone shouted, oh my god, Zhang Dandan, Song Mao, Liu Fanghua, I know them. They are all fans of Wei Ziqian, and Wei Ziqian actually checked in with all of them. Master Lu is right. Wei Ziqian is really this kind of person. I still regard him as an idol. He is really a scum in the calligraphy world. Wei Ziqian's face changed drastically, and he looked at Lu Chuan angrily. You bastard. You actually checked my hotel check-in records. You are invading my privacy, which is illegal. He hurriedly snatched the hotel check-in records from people's hands. After seeing Wei Ziqian's true face, everyone was furious. You old rascal, you did these bad things and you are afraid of being investigated. You are flattering Master Lu to apologize to you. Are you worthy of it? No wonder this old guy always likes to communicate with female fans. It turns out that he has this intention. It is simply corrupting the atmosphere of the calligraphy world. You are so hypocritical. Get out of the calligraphy world. Get out of the calligraphy world. Everyone drove Wei Ziqian out of the art gallery and threw all his works out. Someone contacted the reporter. When this matter gets out, Wei Ziqian's works will be worthless. Everyone returned to Lu Chuan. Master Lu, although you are still very young, your level and your character are definitely worthy of the word master. That's right, compared with Master Lu, that old rascal Wei Ziqian is just a piece of shit. I just like to hear you tell the truth. Lu Chuan smiled and couldn't help but become narcissistic. Gu Hongxiang came over and saw that her former idol had turned out to be like this. She was relieved. She raised her lips and said to Lu Chuan, thank you. Lu Chuan laughed, so you want to be my fan? Gu Hongxiang's eyes fell on the calligraphy and said with a smile, if you give this calligraphy to me. At this time, a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes stood up and said with tears in his eyes, Master Lu, your 4 words have cleared the confusion in my heart. Can I buy it? I'll pay 10 million. Chapter 57, a smile that allures the city. Gu Hongxiang turned her head and glanced at the middle-aged man, her face showing displeasure, and said, he is not the kind of person who loves money. No matter how much you offer, he will not sell it. He will give this calligraphy to me. Before she finished speaking, Lu Chuan pushed her aside, looked at the middle-aged man with enthusiasm, and said, brother, do you really want to spend 10 million to buy my calligraphy? We can't joke. The middle-aged man smiled and said, Master Lu, you are joking. I'm really impressed by your calligraphy. Naturally, I want to buy it sincerely. Gu Hongxiang was angry and glared at Lu Chuan and shouted, Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan glanced at Gu Hongxiang. Sister Hong, don't make trouble. I'm talking about business with others. Gu Hongxiang couldn't help clenching her fists. This guy is so obsessed with money. Lu Chuan called the middle-aged man to a quiet area. The two discussed and finally reached a deal. Lu Chuan looked at the bank card handed to him by the middle-aged man, and his heart was heavy. This is much faster than making money by selling pills. Lu Chuan, can actually be considered a multimillionaire. Of course, he also knew that this kind of thing can only be encountered by chance. And he can't make a living by selling calligraphy just because he made a lot of money this time. People are willing to pay 10 million to buy his calligraphy because he hasn't published any works yet. Once he sells a lot, even if he writes well, it will become a cheap commodity. The middle-aged man smiled and said, Master Lu, can I ask you to sign this calligraphy? Lu Chuan nodded, of course. He walked to the table, picked up the brush, and after a little thought, wrote the word Kingayan in the lower right corner. After seeing it, the middle-aged man nodded secretly, cross the white snow with square cleanliness, and go straight up to the blue sky. Master Lu has lofty ambitions, which is admirable. From now on, we will call Master Lu Master Kingayan. Lu Chuan smiled slightly, and did not refuse. Everyone looked at the middle-aged man with envy. After today, Master Kingayan will surely be famous in the calligraphy world. Today, I can be regarded as witnessing the birth of a generation of calligraphy masters. I'm so lucky. Lu Chuan put away the bank card, walked to Gu Hongxiang, and said with a smile, Sister Hong, what did you want to tell me at that time? What do I have to do for you to be my fan? Gu Hongxiang's face was cold. I will not be a fan of a money-obsessed person like you. Lu Chuan looked at her for a few times, smiled playfully, and said, wait for me. Then he walked to the table, picked up the brush, and wrote again. Soon, Lu Chuan stopped writing, picked up the rice paper, blew it, and walked to Gu Hongxiang. Here, it's for you. Gu Hongxiang looked over, and saw the 4 big characters a smile, to allure the city written on it, and was immediately attracted by the artistic conception. When she came back to her senses, she looked at Lu Chuan and asked, what do you mean? Lu Chuan smiled and said, maybe Sister Hong's character does fit the 4 words of self-improvement, but you are so beautiful, I still think the 4 words of a smile that conquers the city are more suitable for you. After all, you are really beautiful when you smile. Gu Hongxiang has a lot of experience, and there are endless people around her who flatter her. She has long been accustomed to being praised, but at this moment she is a little shy. Her stern face eased, and after looking at Lu Chuan with a reproachful look, she asked, how much is it? I will transfer it to you. Lu Chuan's mouth curled up, no money, just a smile from Sister Hong. Gu Hongxiang was stunned. Lu Chuan said, Sister Hong is so beautiful, if she doesn't smile, it would be a great sin. Gu Hongxiang couldn't help laughing. Like a northern beauty, a smile conquers the city. Lu Chuan stuffed the calligraphy into Gu Hongxiang's hand. That's right, don't always have a stern face, it's healthier to smile. Gu Hongxiang carefully took the calligraphy, asked the art gallery to frame it, and had it sent back home. Seeing that Gu Hongxiang's mood had improved, Lu Chuan asked, Sister Hong, have I completed my mission? Can I leave? Gu Hongxiang raised her head. No, accompany me to drink. Lu Chuan had no choice but to agree. Okay. The two came to a bar. Gu Hongxiang asked for a lot of wine. We won't go home until we are drunk tonight. Lu Chuan declined and said, Sister Hong, you drink. I won't drink. I don't drink much. I will take you back after you finish drinking. He was afraid that his control would decrease after drinking too much, and it would be bad if the power of Langyang exploded at that time. Gu Hongxiang stared at him. What? Is it boring to drink with me? Even such lame excuses used. Lu Chuan couldn't stand Gu Hongxiang's eyes, so he had to say, okay, then I will drink less. After 3 rounds of drinking, both of them were a little drunk. Gu Hongxiang's cheeks were flushed, her eyes were charming. She looked at Lu Chuan and asked, do you think it's funny for someone to let others control his own destiny? Lu Chuan replied, it's not funny, it's just that those who arbitrarily decide the fate of others are too hateful. Gu Hongxiang took a deep breath and drank another sip of wine. Yes, they are more than hateful, they are simply demons. Lu Chuan comforted, Sister Hong, you don't have to be too pessimistic. One day, you will get rid of Longshan'er. Gu Hongxiang shook her head in self-mockery, obviously lacking confidence. At this time, she remembered something, turned her head, and stared at Lu Chuan, and asked, "You said you would save me from the sea of suffering, do you still mean it?" Lu Chuan immediately looked serious, "Of course." Gu Hongseong giggled and reached out to poke Lu Chuan's head. "Why are you so naive, silly boy?" Lu Chuan pondered for a moment and said nothing. "But I like your innocence." Gu Hongseong turned her head and looked at Lu Chuan affectionately with her eyes, and there seemed to be stars flashing in them. Lu Chuan blushed when he was looked at and quickly looked away. Gu Hongseong smiled playfully. "I didn't expect you to be so naive." Lu Chuan was embarrassed. Who said that? I may have experienced more than you." Gu Hongseong came in front of Lu Chuan, and there was only a few centimeters between them, and they could clearly feel each other's breath. Although Gu Hongseong had drunk wine, there was still a faint fragrance on her body, which made Lu Chuan's hormones soar. "Really? Then do you dare to take me to the hotel?" Lu Chuan's heartbeat accelerated instantly, and the Langyang power in his body had a tendency to riot. He was in a hurry, trembling, and picked up a glass of wine to calm down. "Sister Hong, don't make trouble." Gu Hongseong laughed. "Can't you bear it now? Haven't you experienced more than me?" Lu Chuan scratched his head embarrassedly. "I'm just talking nonsense. You are still better." Gu Hongseong was a little proud, picked up the wine glass, and took a sip. At this time, Lu Chuan received a message from Chumingayao. "Asshole, are you still alive?" Lu Chuan was still trying to calm down Gu Hongseong's jizzing, so he didn't reply. Chumingayao sent several more messages. "Asshole, don't think I will fall for your trick. If you don't reply to my message, I advise you to reply to my message quickly. Your joke is not funny at all." After a while, there was no reply. "You're not really dead, are you?" Lu Chuan smiled helplessly and replied, "I'm still alive." Chumingayao immediately replied, "Ha, I knew it, you liar." Lu Chuan typed, "My endurance is almost at its limit. I might explode and die soon. If you don't believe me, you can come and see me then. Just don't be disgusted." TSK, what you said sounds fake. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Lu Chuan, then you should go to bed early. I'm already desperate. Don't bother me. Chumingayao seemed a little angry. "Hey, I'm concerned about you. How can you be so unreasonable? I'm asking you for no reason." Lu Chuan sighed, turned off his phone, and didn't reply. After a while, Chumingayao sent another message. "Why don't you reply to me?" Lu Chuan still didn't reply. After a while, Lu Chuan's phone screen lit up. There was a sentence written on it. "Where are you? I'll find you." Lu Chuan's eyes widened immediately. "She is trying to save me. I'll only give you 30 seconds to think about it. If you don't reply after 30 seconds, I'll turn off my phone and go to sleep." Another message came. Lu Chuan quickly replied, "I'm in the east of the city." He stood up with excitement on his face, thinking that Chumingayao must be the reincarnation of the Bodhisattva. If she really wanted to save him, what would it matter if he gave himself to her? It seems a bit shameless to say that. Seeing Lu Chuan stand up, Gu Hongseong raised the corners of her mouth slightly and said, "Lu Chuan, tonight." Lu Chuan interrupted her. "Sister Hong, I have a very important matter to deal with, and I can't accompany you for the time being. You can call Leng Feng to pick you up. I have to leave first. I'll treat you to dinner another day." After that, he hurriedly left the bar. Gu Hongseong stood there, looking at Lu Chuan, who disappeared in the bar in the blink of an eye, and she was dumbfounded. Not long after Lu Chuan left, Leng Feng came over. "Sister Hong, why did he run away?" Gu Hongseong laughed at herself. "Maybe something really happened. Then you ask me to book the hotel?" Gu Hongseong took a deep breath. The drunken look on her face disappeared, and her expression returned to her usual coldness. "Cancel it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 58 Am I a Man? Half an hour later, in front of the Four Seasons Hotel, Lu Chuan and Chumingayao stood together. Chumingayao was wearing a pink lotus-shaped short skirt, paired with black silk high heels, and her figure was charming and attracted people's attention. She had light makeup on her face, and her face was flushed. I don't know if it was blush or because she was shy. After tonight, you will be my savior. I will never complain if I work for you like a cow or a horse in the future. Chu Mingyao stared at Lu Chuan with a strange look and said, I feel like you are fine. Are you really not fooling me? Lu Chuan smiled slightly and lifted his sleeves directly to expose his arms. The purple blood vessels on it were hideous and terrifying, as if they would burst at any time. This was the manifestation of the riot of Lan Guiyang's power. Chu Mingyao was startled when she saw this scene, and her brows frowned immediately. Do you believe me? Lu Chuan asked with a smile. Chu Mingyao looked at Lu Chuan with a complicated expression and didn't speak for a long time. Then she grabbed Lu Chuan's arm and took him to the hotel. The two checked in. Lu Chuan turned to leave, but Chu Mingyao stood there without moving. Lu Chuan was puzzled. What's wrong? Chu Mingyao leaned close to Lu Chuan's ear with an embarrassed look on her face. I want a box of that. Lu Chuan didn't understand. Which one? Chu Mingyao gritted her teeth and pinched Lu Chuan. Do you want to make me pregnant? Lu Chuan immediately reacted, walked to the front desk embarrassedly, and said, please help me get a box of small umbrellas. After taking the small umbrellas, the two took the elevator upstairs. When they arrived in the room, Chu Mingyao sat down on the edge of the bed with a stiff look on her face. Lu Chuan sat next to her, looking a little at a loss, and mustered up the courage to ask, let's start? Chu Mingyao glared at him. Don't you want to take a shower? Why are you so dirty? Lu Chuan nodded quickly. Yes, take a shower first. Do you want one? Chu Mingyao showed a murderous look. Lu Chuan smiled awkwardly. I'll take a shower first. Then he quickly went into the bathroom to take a shower. After coming out wrapped in a bath towel, Lu Chuan glanced at Chu Mingyao and said, go take a shower. Chu Mingyao looked shy and stared at Lu Chuan and said, don't peek. Lu Chuan nodded. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. After saying that, he always felt that this was a bit strange. Chu Mingyao kept looking him up and down, almost scolding him directly. 20 minutes later, Chu Mingyao came out of the shower. She also put on a bathrobe, her two long legs exposed to the air. Her hair was wet, and Lu Chuan swallowed his saliva. Chu Mingyao looked at Lu Chuan seriously and said, let me make it clear to you first. The reason why I believed your lies and planned to save you once was because you helped me treat my cold and saved my father's life. I was taught, since I was a child, that people should be grateful. From now on, I will no longer question whether what you said is true. I only regard you as a dying person. As the benefactor of our family, I can't just watch you die. I told you this because I don't want you to think that I'm a fickle woman. After all, I'm already engaged to someone else, but I still want to be with you. She bit her lip, tears welled up in her eyes, and she was about to cry. I hope that after this time, we can completely cut off our relationship. From now on, we will have no contact. What happened between us will be kept as a secret, buried in our hearts forever, and no one should mention it again. Lu Chuan looked at her like this, and felt very distressed. Then he took a step forward, and hugged her directly into his arms. Chu Mingyao's face was suddenly full of panic. Didn't you hear what I said just now? Lu Chuan nodded seriously. I heard it. To be honest, if it was in the past, after hearing you say this, I might have already put on my clothes and left in shame. I did hurt you by doing this, but it's different now. I have to remind you, you are my fiancé, and it was the Long family who took advantage of their power and forced you to get engaged to Long Heo. So no matter what you do, you can't say that you are sorry to Long Heo. On the contrary, it is he who is sorry to you. Secondly, it is impossible for me to sever ties with you. I said I would stop your marriage to Long Heo, and I will definitely do it. No matter how powerful the Long family is, I will trample them under my feet step by step. This is my promise to you. Chu Mingyao was stunned. She didn't expect Lu Chuan to say this. She actually felt convinced. But, Lu Chuan blocked her mouth with a finger. No buts. Believe me, I will never let you down. And I have something serious to tell you. Chu Mingyao stammered. What? Lu Chuan leaned close to her ear. You look beautiful today. Chu Mingyao was stunned, and then her face flushed. The long yang power in Lu Chuan's body was completely aroused. His eyes turned scarlet, and he eagerly took Chu Mingyao's soft lips into his mouth. Chu Mingyao snorted softly, but did not resist. At this point, she could only let this guy ravage her. Chapter 59. How many teeth do you have in total? The two bathrobes slipped off, and the fire was raging. Long Heo called halfway. Long Heo called, "You stop for a moment. I'm already on the highway. You still want to answer his call? You. Shut up. I'm going to step on the accelerator." The next morning, Lu Chuan looked at Chu Mingyao, who was sleeping lazily in his arms, with an aunt's smile on his face. Not long after, Chu Mingyao woke up, raised her head in a daze, and after seeing Lu Chuan, she sat up and pulled the quilt to cover her chest. "Rogue, bastard, beast." Lu Chuan smiled slightly and said, "Very beautiful, big, and very smooth." Chu Mingyao frowned. "What are you talking about?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "You scold me, I will praise you. This is called repaying evil with virtue." Chu Mingyao recalled the 3 words Lu Chuan said just now. Her face turned red, and then she grabbed Lu Chuan's arm and bit it hard. Lu Chuan grimaced in pain, and with a ruthless move, he pushed Chu Mingyao down on the bed again. "Do you want me to show off my power again?" Chu Mingyao immediately became as obedient as my Anayang. "I was wrong. I'm sorry." Lu Chuan smiled mischievously, lowered his head, and kissed Chu Mingyao. "From now on, you are my woman. In view of your good performance, I can let you be my principal wife." Chu Mingyao's eyes widened. "What did you say? Principal wife? Do you want to marry 3 wives and 6 concubines in the future?" Lu Chuan smiled awkwardly. "Just a joke. Just a joke." Chu Mingyao snorted coldly. "Only a ghost wants to marry you. A rude guy like you will never get married in your life. Get out of my way. I want to put on my clothes." Lu Chuan let go of Chu Mingyao. Chu Mingyao breathed a sigh of relief quietly. She was almost falling apart. If it happened again, she would not be able to get out of bed and walk. Lu Chuan also got up and put on his clothes. He opened the curtains, letting in the sunlight, and said with expectation, "Before Long Heo marries you, I will become the most powerful man in the world. By then, if Long Heo bullies you, I will kill Long Heo. If the Long family forces you, I will destroy the Long family. I will give you the freedom you long for." Chu Mingyao looked at Lu Chuan bathed in the sun, and was a little absent-minded. Lu Chuan turned around, and she quickly lowered her head and muttered, "I just like to brag." Lu Chuan smiled slightly. "Time will prove everything. Is the coldness in your body gone?" Chu Mingyao felt her body, and found that the coldness that had troubled her for many years was indeed gone. "I didn't lie to you, did I?" Lu Chuan was a little proud. "Everything I said to you is true, including the ones I just said. I'm leaving first. If you miss me, you can call me. Only ghosts would miss you." Chu Mingyao quickly stopped him. The prescription for the anti-aging pill. Can I use it?" Lu Chuan smiled and said, "What's mine is yours. Don't be polite to me." Chu Mingyao rolled her eyes. Lu Chuan returned home. At this moment, the long yang power in his body has been completely suppressed, and his strength has also been raised to the peak of the 5th level of key training. If it can be like this every day, then within a month, I will definitely be able to step on Long Xiana's head and talk. Lu Chuan fantasized beautifully, but he knew that this was impossible. If he wanted to become a strong man, he still needed to take one step at a time. In the evening, Munan King went home. After get off work, Lu Chuan took the bank card with 10 million in it and stood up excitedly. "Sister-in-law, Munan King looked tired and haggard. She forced a smile and said, "Xiao-chan, I'm very tired today. I'm going to rest first." After that, she went back to the room. Lu Chuan originally wanted to share the joy of making a lot of money with Munan King, but seeing Munan King like this, he couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Sister-in-law was a little bit wrong a few days ago. She always looked tired these days. When I asked her, she just said that she was too tired from work. She must be hiding something from me. After a little hesitation, he planned to secretly follow Munan King to work tomorrow to see what problem she encountered. The next day, Lu Chuan pretended to practice in the room. After Mu Nanking went out to work, he quietly followed her out. Mu Nanking took the bus to the bar as usual. Lu Chuan bought a baseball cap and changed into a coat. After making sure that Mu Nanking didn't recognize him, he also got on the bus. Many men on the road were attracted by Mu Nanking's figure and kept peeking. A pervert tried to take advantage of Mu Nanking, so Lu Chuan secretly controlled the man, cut off one of his hands when the car stopped, and threw him out of the car. After arriving at the bar, Mu Nanking got off the car, and Lu Chuan followed him. Lu Chuan didn't notice anything unusual until Mu Nanking entered the bar. He observed the situation in the bar from a distance. This bar is a quiet bar, and the atmosphere inside is relatively relaxed. Everyone sits down to drink, chat, and listen to music, which is not as crazy as in nightclubs. After Mu Nanking entered, he changed into cleaning clothes and started cleaning. Lu Chuan frowned immediately. Wasn't my sister-in-law the foreman here before? Why is she doing cleaning work now? He suppressed his doubts and continued to observe. Until the evening, Mu Nanking did not show any abnormality. At night, there were more customers in the bar and the light was dim. Lu Chuan went in and found a corner to continue observing. At 8 o'clock, a young man who looked like a playboy came in, sat at the bar, and ordered a few drinks, and kept staring at Mu Nanking with a bit of evil in his eyes. At this time, the bar owner came over. The young man asked, "She still refuses?" The boss nodded and said, "I have asked her to do cleaning for a few days. I have assigned her all the dirty and tiring work. I thought she would give in after she couldn't stand it anymore, but I didn't expect her to be so tolerant. She didn't even complain for a few days." The young man cursed inwardly. "Damn it, I offered her 100,000 yuan to sleep with me and she refused, but she can swallow her anger for a month's salary from you. Does she really think of herself as a chaste and heroic woman?" The boss said helplessly, "She has worked here for a long time. Many rich people have mentioned that they want to support her, but she has never agreed. Zhang Chang, why don't you forget it? She is not the kind of person you think. You'd better not make things difficult for her." Zhang Chang sneered. "What I like is her spirit of preferring death to submission. If she agrees right away, I won't look down on her. Don't you think it's exciting to slowly force a woman with a bottom line into a shameless slut?" The boss sighed and said nothing. Zhang Chang comes from a wealthy family and is considered a second generation rich. He is a top member of their bar, and he is also the younger brother of young master Xiao Yun, one of the 4 young masters of Yuncheng. He has a powerful background, and as a bar owner, he cannot afford to offend him. So even though Mu Nanking is an old employee of the bar, he can only help Zhang Chang. Zhang Chang stared at Mu Nanking for a while and asked, "Her family conditions are average, right?" The boss nodded. "She only earns 5,000 yuan a month here. Some time ago, because she couldn't pay the rent, her landlord called me. Now she lives in her brother's house, and that brother is a delivery man. You don't have to think about it to know that her conditions are very difficult. Otherwise she wouldn't want to lose this job, even if she was a cleaner." Zhang Chang showed a sly smile on his face. "Go and call her over. I have a way to make her kneel down under me to please me tonight." The bar owner was puzzled. "What way?" Zhang Chang glared at him. "Just go and call her over. I told you, if you tell her, it will ruin my good thing." The boss had to turn around and walk towards Mu Nanking. He really wanted to get a set of words from Zhang Chang just now, so as to secretly remind Mu Nanking. Unfortunately, he was seen through by Zhang Chang. After Zhang Chang waited for the boss to call Mu Nanking, he took off his watch and put it on the bar. Soon, Mu Nanking came over. She looked at Zhang Chang coldly and said, "I have told you many times that I will not agree to your request. Please don't bother me again in the future." Zhang Chang sneered. "Don't be narcissistic, okay? I just spilled the wine. I asked you to come here to wipe the table. Do you really think I can be interested in someone like you?" Mu Nanking gritted his teeth and said, "Where to wipe?" Zhang Chang pointed to the place in front of him. Mu Nanking immediately took the rag to wipe it. Zhang Chang's eyes showed a sinister look, and he took the opportunity to take the watch down. Snap. The glass on the watch shattered instantly. Zhang Chang quickly picked up the watch, looked at Mu Nanking angrily, and shouted, "You have no eyes. I spent more than 1 million to buy my watch, and you just dropped it? You did it on purpose." Mu Nanking was stunned. No. I didn't drop it. I just avoided it. Zhang Chang snorted. Don't argue here. You were wiping the table just now. It wasn't you who dropped it. Could it be that I threw it down myself? Let me tell you, the market value of my watch is 1.3 million. You have to compensate me now. Otherwise I will call the police and sue you for deliberately destroying my property and lock you up for life. Seeing this, everyone gathered around to watch the fun. The bar owner shook his head, knowing that Mu Nanking would definitely be caught by Zhang Chang today. When Mu Nanking heard the price of 1.3 million, he panicked and his face turned pale. I don't have so much money. Zhang Chang sneered. No money, right? Then you can wait to go to jail. Mu Nanking shuddered. I don't want it. Seeing that Mu Nanking was intimidated by him, Zhang Chang showed a hint of teasing and changed the subject, saying, it's okay if you don't want to go to jail. Since you didn't do it on purpose, I can give you a chance. You sleep with me for a week and listen to my arrangements during this week. Then I won't ask you to pay for it. How about it? Chapter 60. Xiaochuan is the boss and I'm the secretary. Mu Nanking bit her lip, frowning. Zhang Chang leaned towards Mu Nanking with a wretched look on his face and put one hand on her thigh. Okay, don't be reserved. I know you have actually accepted it. Now come with me to the hotel. Mu Nanking was scared and quickly pushed Zhang Chang away. You don't do this. I want to check the surveillance. If the watch was really dropped by me, I will find a way to compensate you. Zhang Chang's mind was full of Mu Nanking's white thighs. He didn't expect Mu Nanking to push him. He didn't stand firmly and fell on his butt. Everyone laughed. Zhang Chang was so angry that he immediately got up from the ground, gritted his teeth, and looked at Mu Nanking, raised his hand and slapped her. Fuck you. You are so shameless. You really think I have a good temper, right? Mu Nanking covered her face, full of grievances. Lu Chuan had just finished using the toilet and saw this scene. As soon as he came out, his anger instantly rose. He rushed over into steps and punched Zhang Chang in the face. You hit my sister-in-law. Do you want to die? Zhang Chang was beaten to the ground. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. He looked closely and found that his two back teeth had fallen to the ground. Mu Nanking was shocked. Xiaochuan, why are you here? Lu Chuan did not answer. He looked at the side of Mu Nanking's face that was hit with concern and asked, sister-in-law, are you okay? Does it hurt? Mu Nanking shook his head. It's okay. Lu Chuan was ashamed. If he had known this, he would not have gone to the toilet. He turned his head and glanced at Zhang Chang on the ground and asked, sister-in-law, what's wrong with this guy? Mu Nanking sighed and told Lu Chuan the whole story. After listening, Lu Chuan gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, thinking that the punch he just hit was not light. Seeing this, Mu Nanking quickly grabbed Lu Chuan. Xiaochuan, don't be impulsive. Zhang Chang picked up his teeth, stood up from the ground, and stared at Lu Chuan with a sinister face. Little bastard, you dare to hit me. I gave you face, right? Lu Chuan immediately stepped forward. You don't accept it? Zhang Chang was frightened by Lu Chuan's momentum and became timid. Just based on the punch just now, he knew that he would definitely not be able to beat this guy. He gritted his teeth, trembling as he looked at Lu Chuan, and asked back, are you her brother? Lu Chuan snorted coldly, yes. Zhang Chang rolled his eyes and sneered, I beat your sister-in-law because she broke my watch worth 1.3 million. You came at the right time. Hurry up and pay the money. Damn it, in this society, money is king. 1.3 million. Let's see how you, a stinky delivery man, will pay. Lu Chuan curled his lips. You'd better wait until you check the surveillance before you say such things. If it was really my sister-in-law who broke it, I will compensate you without a penny less. Zhang Chang glared. Why check the surveillance? My watch was broken by her. I saw it with my own eyes. There is no need to check the surveillance. Do you think we are fools? Lu Chuan glanced at him speechlessly and shouted, who is the boss here? The bar owner stood up. It's me. I'll go check the surveillance. Zhang Chang hurriedly stopped him. Don't go. I said, I saw her break it with my own eyes. Just let them compensate me. Lu Chuan laughed. Why are you guilty? Zhang Chang's eyes flickered. Who is guilty? I just don't want to waste time. Lu Chuan stood in front of him and looked at the bar owner. Go check the surveillance. The bar owner nodded and turned to leave. Zhang Chang's forehead was covered with cold sweat. Soon, the bar owner came back. Zhang Chang winked at him. Boss, I'm your top member. You'd better be careful with your words. The boss sighed, and under the pressure of his conscience, he said, Zhang Chang, you dropped your watch accidentally. It has nothing to do with King. Let's forget about it. The 3 words accidentally were already a face-saving move for him. Everyone looked at Zhang Chang. Zhang Chang cursed inwardly and could only pretend to be surprised and said, really? That might be my mistake, but I accidentally dropped my watch, and it must have been influenced by this woman. But I'm a generous young master, so I won't bother with her. He looked at Lu Chuan fiercely and took out his 2 teeth. But you knocked out 2 of my teeth. This matter can't just be left alone. My teeth have been taken care of by high technology. 100,000. Everyone saw you hit me with their own eyes. Don't even think about running away with these 200,000. Lu Chuan glanced at him and said coldly, you have to find fault, right? Zhang Chang looked at him with his nose. Why, you poor bastard, don't you believe that my teeth are 100,000? I can have someone send the relevant proof over now. And let me remind you, I'm following Zhao Yun. You should have heard of Zhao Yun, right? He is one of the 4 young masters of Yancheng. If you go against me, you will suffer. Lu Chuan's face sank. Zhang Chang showed a trace of pride, thinking that this kid must have been scared silly. Zhao Yun is not someone that everyone can afford to provoke. It's already good enough to be able to cheat this kid out of 200,000 yuan. A stinky delivery man can probably only save 200,000 yuan in his lifetime. This is the price of going against me. Lu Chuan pondered for a few seconds and asked, your teeth are 100,000 yuan each? Zhang Chang nodded. Of course. Lu Chuan asked again, how many teeth do you have in total? Zhang Chang was puzzled. 32. What's wrong? Lu Chuan nodded. Okay, I get it. Are you sure you have to force me to buy your teeth? Zhang Chang glanced at him contemptuously. What else? You don't even have this little money, do you? Wait for me for a while. I'll go get the money. Lu Chuan turned around. King quickly grabbed him. Zhao Chuan, he was the one who hit someone first. Even if you call the police, they may not ask you to pay. Don't be fooled by him. Lu Chuan smiled and said, sister-in-law, don't worry, you wait here for me to come back. After that, he left the bar. King was worried. She knew that Lu Chuan had spent all his money on Kinlan, and he had no savings at all. She hadn't saved any money in the past few years either. 200,000 was undoubtedly a huge sum of money for the 2 of them. Can Zhao Chuan really come up with so much money? If he really gave me this money, how should I repay him? After a long time, Lu Chuan didn't come back. Zhang Chang looked at King with a sneer and said, could it be that this guy couldn't come up with so much money, so he ran away? It seems that he was just pretending to be nice to you. When he really had to pay, he immediately got scared. I think we shouldn't wait for him. You can just go to the hotel with me and sleep for 1 night. I don't want the money. How about that? King frowned. Zhao Chuan is not that kind of person. He will definitely come back. Zhang Chang gritted his teeth. Bitch, why are you so ungrateful? At this time, Lu Chuan returned to the bar, holding a large canvas bag in his hand. It looked heavy, and I didn't know what was in it. Chapter 61. Medical Clinic. King hurried over. Zhao Chuan, why did you take so long? Lu Chuan smiled and said, the bank is closed at night, so I asked a friend to help me withdraw the money. King nodded, thinking that it was normal for the bank to be closed at night. Zhao Chuan must have begged for a long time to withdraw money so late. If she knew that the friend Lu Chuan was talking about was Tsundere, the richest man in Yancheng, she would not think so. After all, Tsundere only needed a phone call, and the bank president came to withdraw money for Lu Chuan in person. Zhang Chang stared at Lu Chuan, looked at the bag in his hand, and said contemptuously, boy, it's only 200,000, but you took so long to get it together. You can't just not get it together, so you bought some local specialties to fool me? Let me tell you, I don't buy it. Lu Chuan smiled, put the bag in his hand on the bar, and then opened it, revealing stacks of red banknotes. Is this a local specialty? Zhang Chang's pupils shrank suddenly. How is this possible? Everyone in the bar was stunned. Oh my god. So much money. It must be millions. So much money. I have never seen so much money in my life. Munan King was also shocked, but soon she frowned. Xiaochuan has been away for so long. Could he have gone to rob a bank? Zhang Chang reacted, walked over quickly, picked up the banknotes, checked them one by one, and swallowed his saliva after confirming that they were all real money. Although he was a rich second generation, he couldn't take out so much cash at once. But soon he became confused and looked at Lu Chuan and asked, "What did you get so much money for?" Lu Chuan grinned. His eyes fell on Zhang Chang's mouth full of teeth. "Here is a total of 3.2 million. Since you force me to buy your teeth, I will buy them all at once." He began to rub his fist. "Now your teeth are all mine. Give them to me." Zhang Chang's eyes showed fear, and he subconsciously retreated to the back. Before he could finish his words, Lu Chuan's fist had already hit him. Bang! Zhang Chang leaned back, and 7 or 8 teeth flew out. Lu Chuan grabbed him and punched him in the face like raindrops. Although he just wanted to knock out all the teeth in Zhang Chang's mouth, after dozens of punches, Zhang Chang had become a pig's head. Not long after, Lu Chuan stopped, pried open Zhang Chang's mouth, and let him go, after making sure that all the teeth were gone. Everyone was stunned. After Zhang Chang had no teeth in his mouth was wrinkled like an old lady, and he couldn't speak. Lu Chuan took a look at his clothes, which were stained with a lot of blood. He couldn't help but sigh. This deal is not cost effective, and I have to wear another piece of clothing. Zhang Chang covered his mouth, staring at Lu Chuan with horror, anger, and resentment, pointing one finger at him, mumbling in his mouth, and it was unknown what he said. Lu Chuan brought the bag of money over and threw it in front of Zhang Chang. "Now we are even." Munan King ran over with a strange look on his face. "Xiaochuan, is this really a good idea?" Lu Chuan laughed, looked around, and asked loudly, "Everyone, you heard it at that time. He forced me to buy his teeth. Moreover, we exchanged money and goods at the same time. It is a legal and compliant transaction. There should be no problem, right?" Everyone nodded quickly. They were afraid that Lu Chuan would come and knock out their teeth. Lu Chuan looked at Munan King. "Everyone says there is no problem, then there is no problem. Sister-in-law, let's go." Munan King was led out of the bar by Lu Chuan with a confused face. When they got outside, the night wind blew, and Munan King came back to his senses. He grabbed Lu Chuan anxiously and asked, "Xiaochuan, tell me the truth. Where did you get all that money? Did you do anything illegal?" Lu Chuan laughed and said, "How is it possible? Let's go back first, and I will tell you slowly later." Munan King went home with Lu Chuan full of worry. Lu Chuan took a shower and changed his clothes. Munan King sat on the sofa and patted the seat next to him with a serious look. Lu Chuan walked over and sat down, telling him about how he made money by selling calligraphy. Munan King couldn't believe it after listening, and his eyes widened. "I've heard of Wei Ziqian's reputation, but his calligraphy can't even compare to yours?" Lu Chuan smiled and nodded, patting his chest. "Of course. Otherwise how could anyone be willing to pay 10 million to buy my calligraphy?" Munan King cried with joy. "Xiaochuan is really amazing. He can fight and heal diseases, and he has such a talent in calligraphy. Sister-in-law, I admire Xiaochuan so much." Lu Chuan was full of joy. There is nothing more joyful than hearing praise from someone you care about. But he turned his head and frowned, and said angrily, "Sister-in-law, it's you. You obviously got into trouble, but you kept it from me. If I hadn't noticed that something was wrong with you, and secretly went to the bar with you, you might have been bullied today." Munan King lowered her head, like a well-behaved and trained little wife, full of shame. "I know I was wrong." Her face was red, and she grabbed Lu Chuan's arm and shook it, as if she was acting coquettishly. "Xiaochuan, please forgive me. I will never do this again." Lu Chuan turned his head and glanced at her, thinking that even his sister-in-law's coquettishness was so alluring. Who could resist it? He coughed twice and said, "Just once, never again." Munan King laughed. "Okay." Lu Chuan stopped pretending and turned his head to say seriously, "Sister-in-law, Quit your job at the bar. I'm rich now, and I'll support you in the future. Munan King was stunned and blushed, saying, how can this be? You should keep your money for yourself. I caused you to lose more than 3 million today, and I feel guilty. Lu Chuan smiled and said, it's just to help my sister-in-law get rid of her anger. What's the point of 3 million? I will make more money in the future, so don't take it to heart. Sister-in-law, I plan to open a clinic. I asked you to quit your job at the bar because I actually wanted you to help me run the clinic. Selling calligraphy to make money depends on luck. He needs a stable way to make money, and he has begun to realize that in order to compete with Longshire, in addition to strength, he must have his own industry. The clinic is the first step in his plan. Upon hearing this, Munan King's eyes lit up and he said, if Xiaochuan wants to start a business, I will fully support him, but I know nothing about medicine. Lu Chuan said, sister-in-law, you just need to manage the money for me. I know you are good at management. No matter big or small things, you can handle them in an orderly manner. I believe you can manage our clinic well. Munan King smiled. Okay, Xiaochuan will be the boss and I will be the secretary. Lu Chuan said, no, sister-in-law will be the general manager, and I will be the #1 capable person under sister-in-law. Munan King laughed out loud. Lu Chuan said, it's settled. I will go find a place tomorrow and rent a store first. Sister-in-law, you are tired all day, go take a shower and rest. Munan King nodded, and got up, and went into the bathroom. She recalled the scene when Lu Chuan suddenly appeared today, protected her behind him, and helped her teach Zhang Chang a lesson, and her eyes were faintly filled with peach blossoms. It would be great if Xiaochuan could be my guardian angel for the rest of my life. She stripped off her clothes, and turned on the shower. Should I find a chance to tell Xiaochuan the secret? At this moment, her eyes fell on the clothes rack not far away, and her pupils shrank. Lu Chuan's changed underwear fell on it. Munan King's breathing suddenly became rapid, and a blush crept up on her face. Then she couldn't help but reach out to the clothes rack. Chapter 62, Medical Clinic. What am I thinking about? Munan King came back to her senses and quickly covered her face with her hands, her eyes full of shame. She shook her head vigorously to get rid of the shameful thoughts in her mind, turned her back to the clothes rack, and took a shower with a guilty look on her face. An hour later, Lu Chuan walked out of the room. My underwear seems to be in the bathroom. He came to the bathroom, looked at the clothes rack, and found that his underwear was gone. He went in and searched for it, but found that it was nowhere to be found. Could it be that I remembered it wrong? Walking out of the bathroom, Lu Chuan looked puzzled and subconsciously glanced at the balcony and found that his underwear was already hanging on it. It seems to have been washed. My sister-in-law is so good to me. She quietly helped me wash my clothes. He showed a touching smile on his face and turned back to the room. At the same time, outside the gate of the supervisory office, Xiao Yun came out with a disheveled face, unshaven beard, and a haggard face. He looked up at the sky, his eyes full of resentment. Lu Chuan, Xiao Yun, will not be a human being if I don't avenge myself. Ring, ring, ring. Xiao Yun picked up the phone and found that it was Long Hao calling, so he quickly answered it. What have you been doing these days? Why can't I get through on the phone? Xiao Yun said embarrassedly. Don't mention it. I was tricked by that bastard Lu Chuan and was locked up in the supervisory office for half a month. Long Hao, is this Lu Chuan so difficult to deal with? Xiao Yun said. Actually, this guy is just lucky. Don't worry, brother. Give me some more time and I will make him disappear from this world. Brother, don't mention that Lu Chuan. What's the matter with you calling me? Long Hao, I called Meng Yao all night that day and couldn't get through. She has been indifferent to me these 2 days. I suspect she did something behind my back. Please help me keep an eye on her. If it is still related to that Lu Chuan, find a way to get rid of him for me immediately. Xiao Yun immediately agreed. Don't worry, brother. If this little bastard dares to set his sights on my future sister-in-law, I will make sure that he is killed without leaving any trace. The next day, Munan King went to the bar to handle his resignation, while Lu Chuan went to find a suitable store. After wandering around the city for a whole morning, Lu Chuan finally saw a clinic that was going to be transferred in a busy pedestrian street near the city center. The clinic was built in a somewhat retro style, with a plaque hanging on the door with 4 large characters Zuanhu Medical Clinic written on it. The clinic was deserted, and a notice of transfer was posted on the door. Lu Chuan walked in, and negotiated for a long time with an old man in his 60s, and finally agreed to buy the clinic for 2 million, including various qualification certificates. After everything was handed over, Lu Chuan asked the old man, "Old sir, I see that your location is quite good. The pedestrian street has a large flow of people, and there are several residential areas around. Logically, there should be a lot of people coming to see a doctor. Why do you want to transfer this clinic?" The old man sighed and said, "Originally, there were a lot of people coming to see a doctor here, but since a year ago, a Western medicine clinic called Jerry's Clinic opened about 50 meters away from here. Everyone went there for treatment. Under pressure, I had to transfer the clinic." Lu Chuan was puzzled. Chinese and Western medicine each have their own strengths, and Chinese medicine has been passed down for thousands of years, and has a profound foundation. Many people in the country still believe in Chinese medicine. Even if a Western medicine clinic opens there, there should be no one coming here for treatment, right? The old man was a little angry and said, "What you said is very right, but the people at Jerry's Clinic are dirty. When they first opened, they distributed flyers in the nearby communities, saying that Western medicine is scientific, Chinese medicine relies on blind guessing, Western medicine saves people, and Chinese medicine harms people. They also organize a speech every once in a while, telling how advanced Western medicine is, praising the exquisiteness of Western medicine, while belittling Chinese medicine, saying that Chinese medicine has no scientific basis, and can't cure diseases at all, and encouraging people not to come to me for treatment. Later, they also found someone to pretend to be a patient and set a trap for me. I treated the disease according to the normal process, but they turned around and said that I treated them badly. After a while, my reputation became bad, and everyone went to Jerry's Clinic for treatment. The boss of Jerry's Clinic is only in his 40s, strong and healthy, and there is a group of young people under him to give advice. I'm an old man, and can't beat them, so I can only admit defeat." Lu Chuan nodded with enlightenment and said, "Then the people in Jerry's Clinic are really shameless." At the same time, he shouted in his heart, "Why didn't you tell me this before I gave you the money?" The old man patted Lu Chuan on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Young man, you are a young man with fighting spirit. I believe you can definitely make the clinic alive again. Work hard and win face for our Chinese medicine." After that, he left quickly. Lu Chuan shrugged and didn't care. He looked at the huge clinic with a smile on his face. "I will have my own business in the future." After getting familiar with the clinic and cleaning it up, Lu Chuan locked the door and tore off the notice of transfer. Before officially opening the business, he had to get a medical license, otherwise he wouldn't be able to treat patients. "You took over this clinic?" A voice sounded behind Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan turned his head and found several young people in their 20s wearing white coats staring at him. The one who spoke was a girl with long hair and a pretty face. Lu Chuan nodded. "What's wrong?" Several people burst into laughter. The girl looked at Lu Chuan with sympathy and said with a smile, "Good luck to you. By the way, my name is Fang Mao. If your clinic can't continue, you can find me." Then several people turned and left. After walking a few steps, Fang Mao laughed out loud. "I didn't expect that there would be such a jerk to take over this shabby clinic. I really don't know what he was thinking. That guy is so young, and he looks like a fool. Most of these people are self-righteous. Maybe he thinks he can keep this clinic going. Haha, with our Jerry Clinic here, don't even think about opening a Chinese medicine clinic on this street. Let's bet on how long his clinic can last. Half a year? Don't make a fuss. I think it will take at most a month. 1 month is too high of a price. I think he should close down in a week." Several people talked loudly, without avoiding Lu Chuan at all, and then turned into the very modern Jerry Clinic built not far away. Lu Chuan looked at Jerry Clinic speechlessly. "These guys are so ugly. I don't know where their sense of superiority comes from. It seems that I have to let these people see the breadth and depth of Chinese medicine when I have time. Without too much entanglement, he put the matter aside for the time being and took a taxi home. After a while, a car stopped in front of Jerry Clinic. Zhao Yun came down from inside and walked into the clinic. Zhang Kaiwen, the boss of Jerry's clinic, saw this and hurried over to greet him. "Master, why didn't you tell me in advance that you were coming so that I could welcome you?" Zhao Yun sat on the sofa and said impatiently, "Don't talk nonsense. Get ready. Give me a full body check. I've been locked up for half a month. I can't eat or sleep well. See if there's anything wrong with my body." Zhang Kaiwen hurriedly said, Okay, I'll get ready." Zhao Yun took out his mobile phone and browsed the news that Lu Chuan represented Chen's martial arts school to defeat Jideo martial arts school. Damn it, even Tsundere, a second grade grandmaster, is not your opponent. You are so awesome. Zhao Yun gritted his teeth, his eyes full of hatred. He clicked on a few photos sent to him, all of which were scenes of Lu Chuan and Chu Mingyao together. "You bastard. It's fine if you stole my Ningxin, but you actually dared to set your sights on my future sister-in-law. You're asking for death, so don't blame me for being ruthless." Zhang Kaiwen came over with a cup of hot water. "Master, drink some hot water first." Seeing Zhao Yun's gloomy face, he asked, "Master, what's wrong with you?" Zhao Yun snorted coldly, "It's nothing. I was just mad at an idiot." He took the hot water, took a sip, and then asked, "How's the clinic business recently?" Zhang Kaiwen hurriedly said, "We use the method that master instructed us, and Zuanu Clinic has been forced to close. But I heard that someone else has taken over, but it doesn't matter. Now people from the surrounding area come to us for treatment, and Zuanu Clinic's reputation has become bad." Zhao Yun nodded. "Your clinic is a very important part of our Jerry pharmaceutical layout. As long as people are made to doubt Chinese medicine, our medicine will be easier to sell. You keep working hard. If you do a good job, I will invest in a few more clinics for you this year." Zhang Kaiwen smiled. "Master, don't worry, I will never let you down." Zhao Yun nodded. At this time, he received a message. "Master, Chen Long has arrived in Yancheng." Zhao Yun's eyes lit up, and after a little thought, he replied, "Set up a meeting for me, invite celebrities from all walks of life, and let Chen Long be prepared. Tonight, I will make sure that bastard Lu Chuan dies without a burial place. Yes." Zhao Yun showed a sinister smile on his face. "Lu Chuan, so what if you defeated a second grade master? Chen Long is a fourth grade master that I invited back from outside at a high price. Tonight, you will definitely die." Chapter 63 Chen Long. At home, Mu Nanking returned. After completing the resignation process, Lu Chuan told her about taking over the Zuanhu Medical Clinic. Mu Nanking was very happy. Zhao Chuan's medical skills are amazing, and he will definitely become a household name in Yancheng. Lu Chuan accepted the compliment shamelessly and said, "After a few days, I will get my medical license, and our clinic will be open for business." The two of them enjoyed a bright future together. After discussing some details of opening a clinic, Lu Chuan returned to the room. He took out a 50-year-old medicinal herb. "After a night of passion with Mingyao, my strength has increased to the peak of the 5th level of key training. Now there is a faint trend of breakthrough. Why not try it now?" Because he was only a step away from a breakthrough, Lu Chuan did not plan to refine the elixir and directly swallowed the herb raw into his stomach. This saved some trouble. However, after taking the medicinal herb for a long time, his body did not produce any reaction. Sure enough, it is not as fast as refining it into an elixir. I guess it will take until the evening for the medicinal effect to take effect. He sat cross-legged on the bed, began to practice, and tried to catalyze the medicinal effect in his body. In the evening, Ningxin suddenly called. "That annoying Zhao Yun wants to treat me to dinner tonight, and ask me to take you with me, saying that he has prepared a surprise for you. Come find me soon." Lu Chuan was puzzled. "Prepared a surprise for me?" Ningxin said. "Yes, I asked him what the surprise was, but he didn't tell me. You'll know when you go there." Lu Chuan said. "Can I not go?" Ningxin said. "No. Aren't you curious about what the surprise is? If you don't come, I'll go to your house to find you now." Lu Chuan sighed helplessly, thinking that Zhao Yun had been locked up for half a month because of me. What kind of surprise could he prepare for me? Maybe it would be a shock. How can you, a young lady, be so curious? In order to prevent Ningxin from running to his house to make trouble, he had to agree. Okay, where are you? I'll find you. Half an hour later, in front of Yunhei Hotel. As soon as Lu Chuan got off the car, he saw Ningxin, who was wearing a low-cut dress, a hip skirt, and high heels, walking towards him. His eyes were immediately attracted by Ningxin's jade peaks, and then he quickly said, "Stop. Don't move." Ningxin stopped immediately, her pretty face full of confusion. "What's wrong?" Lu Chuan coughed twice. "It's shaking too much. I feel a little dizzy." Ningxin looked down. Her face turned red, and then she reached out to hit Lu Chuan. Rogue. Lu Chuan quickly dodged. "Why are you hitting me? I'm praising you." Ningxin snorted, but there was a little joy in her eyes. She turned around in front of Lu Chuan. "How is it? Does it look good?" Lu Chuan nodded from the bottom of his heart. "It looks good." Ningxin reached out and took Lu Chuan's arm. Let's go see what surprise Xiao Yun has prepared for you." Lu Chuan glanced at Ningxin suspiciously, wondering if she was really interested in the surprise Xiao Yun mentioned. The two walked into Yunhei Hotel together. Many celebrities gathered here, and after seeing Ningxin, they came forward to say hello. The richest man Qi Zhenlian was also among them. After he greeted Ningxin, he came up to Lu Chuan and whispered, "Lu Chuan, you better leave quickly. Xiao Yun is going to target you tonight. If you leave late, I'm afraid something will happen." Lu Chuan smiled slightly. "It's okay, I'm not afraid of him." Ningxin pretended not to hear it, and her lips curled up slightly. Of course, she knew that Xiao Yun couldn't prepare any surprises for Lu Chuan. This game tonight was definitely aimed at Lu Chuan, but she didn't intend to intervene in this matter. She regarded Xiao Yun as a test for Lu Chuan. If Lu Chuan could pass it, then she would have the courage to make some decisions. Xiao Yun stood in the corner and saw Ningxin still holding Lu Chuan, with jealousy on his face. He rubbed his face, forced a smile, and walked towards Ningxin. "Miss Ning, you are so beautiful today. This dress suits you very well." Ningxin curled her lips with contempt. "It's not for you to see." Xiao Yun's expression froze. He took a deep breath, pretending to be indifferent, turned his head, and looked at Lu Chuan on the side, and said coldly, "Boy, I didn't expect you to have the courage to come." Lu Chuan smiled and said, "What's there to be afraid of? Didn't you say you wanted to give me a surprise?" Xiao Yun sneered and clapped his hands immediately. A man with a cold expression and a restrained breath walked over. This man is called Chen Long, a martial arts master. The martial arts principle he follows is to fight life for life. In his opinion, only by fighting life and death can one comprehend the true meaning of martial arts. Therefore, he traveled around to find masters, to fight life and death. Those who were challenged by him all died, and he became stronger and stronger. He heard about you representing Chen's martial arts school, to defeat Judeo martial arts school, so he wanted to find you for a life and death battle. This is the surprise I prepared for you. Lu Chuan, don't you think you are very capable? Do you dare to accept Chen Long's challenge?" Lu Chuan looked at the man named Chen Long carefully, and found that he could not see the other party's realm. "In order to avenge me, Xiao Yun will definitely not find an ordinary person. This Chen Long is definitely not simple." Lu Chuan thought about it in his heart, and hesitated for a moment. Seeing that Lu Chuan didn't speak, Xiao Yun said loudly, "Why don't you speak? Are you scared?" Everyone immediately whispered. It seems that Lu Chuan is not a courageous person. He didn't dare to accept the life and death battle. Didn't he dare to accept Ko Xiang's challenge before? Why is he scared now? This kind of courage is not worthy of Miss Ning. Xiao Yun showed a proud smile on his face. If Lu Chuan accepted the challenge today, he would definitely die, and if he didn't dare to accept the challenge, he would have to bear the reputation of a coward. This is exactly the purpose of inviting celebrities from all walks of life. Once Lu Chuan becomes a coward, Ningxin will definitely look down on him, and he will have a chance to take the position. In order to force Lu Chuan to make a choice, Xiao Yun continued, "How about this? If you dare to accept Chen Long's challenge today, I will no longer compete with you for Miss Ning in the future, and I will stay away from Miss Ning. If you dare not agree, then give up Miss Ning in front of everyone now, and promise that you will never have any ideas about her in the future. Do you dare?" Lu Chuan looked at Zhao Yun's confident look and guessed that Qianlong's strength was definitely extraordinary, otherwise he would not dare to shout like that. Although he had the purple cloud pearl in his hand and was not afraid of the 9th grade grandmaster, if he used the purple cloud pearl again in front of so many people, everyone would definitely understand that Ko Xiang's death was not bad luck. By then, I'm afraid that countless strong men would come to ask him how he did it. Long Xian'er is more likely to kill him in anger. This is not a wise choice. Moreover, he and Ningxin were pretending to be lovers. Even if he did not accept the challenge, he would not lose anything. At most, he would be laughed at. Compared with life, being ridiculed is nothing. In the past days, he has been accustomed to being ridiculed. Lu Chuan turned his head to look at Ningxin, only to find that Ningxin's eyes were full of expectation. At this time, Qianlong took 2 steps forward, stared at Lu Chuan, and scolded, "Useless. Don't you dare to accept the challenge?" Lu Chuan didn't care at all, and was about to refuse. At this time, Ningxin said angrily, "Who said he didn't dare to accept the challenge? I agreed on his behalf, so you can just wait to be beaten to a pulp." Chapter 64, Life and Death Fight. Lu Chuan's eyes widened, and he turned to look at Ningxin. Ningxin chuckled, "They are too arrogant. I couldn't help being angry, so I agreed on your behalf. I know you are very powerful, and you will definitely be able to beat him." "Thank you." Lu Chuan complained in his heart, "If the other party is a master of the same level as Ko Xiang, you are pushing me into the fire pit." Zhao Yun laughed and said quickly, "Okay. Since you have agreed, you can't regret it. Sign the life and death agreement." Lu Chuan shook his head helplessly. At this point, he could only bite the bullet. The two signed the life and death agreement. Everyone spread out and surrounded a venue for Lu Chuan and Qianlong to fight. In the center of the field, Qianlong sneered at Lu Chuan, "Boy, I have fought a total of 107 life and death battles in my life, and I have never lost a single one. You are the 108th, you should feel lucky." Lu Chuan curled his lips, his eyes extremely alert. "Don't be too confident, maybe today is a day you lose." Qianlong laughed wildly, "Really? Do you think you have the ability?" As soon as the voice fell, his momentum burst out instantly. A strong sense of oppression appeared in the whole hall. Everyone had difficulty breathing and looked terrified. 4th grade Grandmaster. It's actually a 4th grade Grandmaster. Someone exclaimed. Although Lu Chuan defeated the master of Judo martial arts school, the opponent is only 2nd grade. He can't be the opponent of a 4th grade Grandmaster. No wonder Zhao Yun is so confident. Lu Chuan will definitely lose today. Sign the life and death agreement, and if you lose, you will die. Lu Chuan's good luck will end here. Ningxin looked at Qianlong in disbelief. This guy is so powerful? Then she turned her head to look at Lu Chuan. A hint of panic appeared in her eyes. Then didn't I harm Lu Chuan? Her face was full of regret and self-blame, and she hurried forward and shouted, "This competition cannot count. I took the initiative to agree on Lu Chuan's behalf. You can't fight." Zhao Yun came over and said with a smile, "The life and death agreement has been signed, and there is no room for regret. Miss Ning, you should just watch Lu Chuan being beaten to death." Ningxin gritted her teeth and looked at Zhao Yun. "You did it on purpose." Zhao Yun shrugged. "Miss Ning, I didn't force him to fight. It was indeed Qianlong who instructed him to hide his breath. After all, he showed the aura of a 4th grade Grandmaster from the beginning, and Lu Chuan might have been scared." Ningxin was so anxious that her palms were sweating and her eyes were red. "I'm such an idiot. Why did I foolishly react for Lu Chuan? If he really died, then wouldn't I be the murderer who helped the evil? Why am I so brainless? Woo woo woo." In the field, Lu Chuan felt relieved after feeling the strength of Qianlong, a 4th grade master. Although he is not a match for the 4th grade master now, he has already felt that the medicinal material he took in the afternoon has begun to take effect. The corners of his mouth curled up. Life and death struggle is indeed a way to improve strength. With the 50-year-old medicinal material, I should be able to take this opportunity to break through. After stretching his muscles and bones a little and running the spiritual power in his body to the extreme, Lu Chuan looked at Qianlong with an expression eager to try. On the sidelines, Xiao Yun looked at Lu Chuan with a smug look on his face and said to himself, after this guy knows that Chen Long is a 4th grade master, he might be scared to the point of peeing his pants. He is likely to beg for mercy on the spot to save his life. In that case, he will become a complete joke. And unfortunately, I have already given Chen Long a death order. Even if he begs for mercy, Chen Long will never let him live. He was looking forward to Lu Chuan kneeling down and begging for mercy. However, the next second, Lu Chuan showed an excited smile and was ready to fight with Chen Long. He didn't look afraid at all. Xiao Yun frowned. Isn't he afraid at all? Chen Long didn't waste any more time. He took a step forward and everyone felt the ground shaking. Boy, die. He was so fast that he almost left an afterimage. Lu Chuan tried his best to make a defensive move before he reached him. A punch came down. Bang. Lu Chuan stepped back a few steps and shook his arms. Chen Long attacked again. Lu Chuan tried his best to resist, but it seemed quite strenuous. But after just a dozen moves, Lu Chuan was sweating profusely, panting heavily, and felt severe pain all over his body, and his arms were trembling slightly. Xiao Yun's smile returned. I thought this guy had some trump card, but it turns out that his confidence was just fake. Ningxin clenched her fists, her nerves tense, and she was worried about Lu Chuan. Chen Long smiled at Lu Chuan. Is that all you can do? Lu Chuan took a deep breath. Come again. The two fought again. Chen Long didn't know that as the battle became more and more intense, the effect of the medicine in Lu Chuan's body began to work crazily. Chen Long's moves were fatal, and if he was not careful, Lu Chuan might die on the spot. Although he was being beaten, Lu Chuan became more and more excited. For the first time, he felt the pleasure of this life and death fight. Since he embarked on the path of cultivation, this was the first time he felt so refreshed. Bang! Lu Chuan was kicked by Chen Long, and his body flew backwards and fell to the ground. He stood up with difficulty and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Chen Long looked arrogant. If you kneel down and beg for mercy now, I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, I will break all your bones, smash your skull bit by bit, and torture you to death. Lu Chuan laughed. I think you may not have that chance. Just now, he felt that a certain barrier in his body was broken. Xiao Yun laughed contemptuously. This guy is still pretending when he is about to die. He is really suffering for his face. Miss Ning, you have also seen how arrogant and conceited he is, so you don't have to be sad at all if he is beaten to death. Ningxin was annoyed. If you talk to me again, I will find someone to sew your mouth shut. Xiao Yun shrank his neck in dissatisfaction and stopped talking. Chen Long snorted coldly. You asked for this, so don't blame me for being rude. He used his internal energy and threw a punch with all his strength. Strong winds appeared, blowing up the clothes and hair of people in the hall. So strong. If Lu Chuan doesn't die from this punch, he will lose half his life. 4th rank Grandmaster, the reputation is well deserved. Seeing that Chen Long's fist was about to hit Lu Chuan's chest, Lu Chuan had a calm face. Xiao Yun sneered. This guy must be scared silly. When the fist was only a dozen centimeters away from his body, Lu Chuan raised his hand. Snap. Chen Long's fist was caught by him. The energy dispersed to the surroundings, but Lu Chuan did not move at all. This powerful punch was easily resolved. Chen Long couldn't believe it. This is impossible. The onlookers also gasped. Lu Chuan's mouth curled up slightly. Thank you for helping me break through. Next, it's my turn. As soon as the voice fell, the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth rushed into his body crazily. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 65. Ningxin blames herself. Chen Long felt a sense of crisis. He felt that Lu Chuan's aura had changed dramatically. Impossible. Even if you break through in battle, you can't become so strong. How did you do it? He subconsciously pulled his hand back, but was shocked to find that he couldn't resist at all. Lu Chuan laughed. I tell you, you can't understand it. He casually slapped his palm and landed on Chen Long's chest. Crack. The sound of bones breaking was heard. Qianlong flew backwards and fell heavily to the ground, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Everyone was stunned. How could Lu Chuan suddenly become so strong? That palm seemed light, but it even broke bones when it landed on my body. This is too scary. This reversal is simply against the sky. Xiao Yun was dumbfounded, in disbelief. Why is this happening? Qianlong is a 4th grade master. How could this guy suddenly become stronger while fighting? Ningxin's eyes lit up, and she cried excitedly. I knew he could do it. Woo woo woo. I will never do this again. When he wins later, I must make it up to him. Lu Chuan came in front of Qianlong and looked down at him. You wanted to break all the bones in my body at that time. Qianlong's eyes showed fear. He knew that at this moment he was no match for Lu Chuan. Without hesitation, he quickly knelt on the ground and began to beg for mercy. I was wrong. Spare my life. I can be your little brother and work for you. Lu Chuan sneered. The life and death agreement has been signed. Do you think begging for mercy is useful? He grabbed Qianlong's arm and twisted it hard. With a click, it broke directly. Qianlong screamed. Everyone couldn't help but cover their eyes. Lu Chuan had no sympathy for Qianlong and broke his remaining arm and 2 legs. Qianlong was dying, staring at Lu Chuan with his eyes. Before you kill me, can you tell me how you did it? Lu Chuan leaned close to his ear and whispered, I'm a cultivator. Qianlong's eyes widened. Lu Chuan stretched out his hand to hold Qianlong's head, and with a force, he broke his neck. The whole audience exclaimed. Ningxin excitedly ran to Lu Chuan, hugged his neck, and said with self-blame, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I almost killed you. I'm stupid. Can you forgive me? Lu Chuan was squeezed so hard that he had difficulty breathing. He glanced down, then quickly turned his head and said, be reserved. So many people are watching. Ningxin then let go of Lu Chuan, lowered her head guiltily, like a child who had done something wrong. I really didn't mean it. Lu Chuan smiled and said, don't worry, I don't blame you. This is a good opportunity for me. Ningxin's eyes lit up. Really? Lu Chuan nodded. Ningxin suddenly became happy, hugged Lu Chuan again, and kissed him. Lu Chuan looked helpless and stretched out his hand to push her away. Everyone gathered around and cast admiring eyes at Lu Chuan. Qi Zhen'an said with a smile, Lu Chuan, I didn't expect you to turn defeat into victory. If this battle today gets out, you will definitely be famous in the martial arts world. Lu Chuan smiled, turned his head and set his eyes on Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun hadn't figured out why Qianlong lost. Seeing Lu Chuan looking at him, he trembled with fear. Lu Chuan walked towards Xiao Yun and said coldly, you are really deliberate, in order to kill me. Xiao Yun swallowed his saliva. It's Qianlong who wants to challenge you. It has nothing to do with me. Lu Chuan shouted, isn't he the surprise you prepared for me? Now he is dead. Do you want to fight a life and death battle with me? Xiao Yun thought of the scene where Qianlong's neck was broken just now. His whole body froze, and then he knelt down in front of Lu Chuan with a plop. Brother, spare my life. You are a martial arts master and a heroic figure, and I'm a scum. How dare I fight you? Please spare me. After that, he kowtowed. Everyone couldn't help laughing when they saw this. Someone else took out his cell phone and recorded the scene. The eldest son of the Zhao family was frightened to kneel down and kowtow. This is really the first time I've seen it. It's really embarrassing for the 4th young master of Yancheng. If the other 3 young masters saw this, they would definitely kick him out of the ranks of the 4th young master. TSK, how arrogant he was then, how embarrassing he is now. I really saw a good show today. Xiao Yun listened to the discussion of the crowd, and his heart was full of grievances, but in order to survive, he had to be shameless. Lu Chuan looked at Xiao Yun kowtow to him, and raised his eyebrows. You are quite skilled in this action. Xiao Yun smiled awkwardly. Go away. If you want to trouble me again in the future, you'd better think twice. Lu Chuan said. Xiao Yun nodded quickly. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Then he quickly got up and ran away. Lu Chuan sighed. He knew that Xiao Yun admitted his mistake, but he would definitely come to trouble him again in the future. But he couldn't kill Xiao Yun, like he killed Qianlong, without signing a life and death agreement. If he killed Xiao Yun himself, he would be taken away by the supervisory department immediately. Meng Yao and I have been very close recently. I'm afraid that we have been targeted by someone with ulterior motives. Zhao Yun is targeting me like this. I'm afraid that Long Hao must have instructed him. In this case, I might as well use Zhao Yun as a stepping stone and practice with him before confronting Long Hao head on. Thinking of this, Lu Chuan asked Qi Zhenyan, Mr. Qi, what does Zhao Yun's family do? Qi Zhenyan said, the Zhao family is the leader of the pharmaceutical industry in Yunsheng. The influence of Jerry Pharmaceuticals under their name covers the entire province, and their strength is quite strong. Lu Chuan was stunned. Jerry Pharmaceuticals? What is the relationship between Jerry Clinic and them? Qi Zhenyan said, Jerry Clinic is an industry under the name of Jerry Pharmaceuticals. It is still in the pilot program. It is said that, if the pilot program is successful, it will be promoted throughout the province. Lu Chuan showed a playful smile. It seems that the road of enemies is really narrow. In this case, let's start with Jerry Clinic. By the way, Mr. Qi, thank you for calling the bank to withdraw money for me last time. Lu Chuan bowed to Qi Zhenyan. Qi Zhenyan smiled and said, it's just a small favor. You're welcome. Lu Chuan didn't say anything else. After eating something, he went out with Ningxin. Ningxin became inexplicably well behaved and even a little shy on her face. Lu Chuan turned his head to look at her and asked, have you become mute? Ningxin said with an embarrassed face, oh, I did something wrong, and now I'm blaming myself. Lu Chuan smiled and said, didn't I say I don't blame you? Ningxin said, but I feel bad. Lu Chuan asked, then how do you want to compensate me? After careful consideration, Ningxin said to Lu Chuan a little shyly, didn't you say you wanted to sleep with me last time? Lu Chuan glared, do you really want to sleep with me? Ningxin said with shame on her face, who thought about it? Don't talk nonsense, I can't let you succeed so easily. Lu Chuan looked at her suspiciously, then what do you mean? Ningxin leaned close to Lu Chuan's ear and whispered, can I use the five-finger girl to help you? Chapter 66, Battle for the Quota. Lu Chuan was dumbfounded, his eyes moved down to Ningxin's delicate hands. He could never have imagined that these words would come from the mouth of Ningxin, a beautiful young lady. But considering Ningxin's habit of watching movies, it was normal for her to know this method. Ningxin lowered her head, blushing, nervous and expectant. Is it okay? Doesn't this show my sincerity? Lu Chuan coughed twice. I appreciate your sincerity. I really don't blame you. It's getting late. Go home quickly. After saying that, he quickly ran to the side of the road, hailed a taxi and left. He always felt that Ningxin's compensation for him was fake, and it was true that she satisfied her inner curiosity. Men must protect themselves when they go out. Ningxin watched Lu Chuan slip away in the blink of an eye, her big eyes full of disbelief. After a long time, she clenched her fist and gritted her teeth and said, asshole, what do you mean by this? Do you dislike me, or are you dissatisfied? Do you have to do it all at once? Can't there be a gradual process? Damn it. The next day, Lu Chuan took a taxi to the medical office to consult about applying for a medical license. As soon as he arrived at the gate of the medical office, Lu Chuan saw a familiar face. Zhao Siming, the chief judge of the previous medicinal material identification competition, came over with a playful girl with twin ponytails. Lu Chuan hurried forward to greet him. Mr. Zhao, I didn't expect to meet you here. What a coincidence. Are you also here to do business in the medical office? The girl with twin ponytails looked at Lu Chuan with disdain and said, my grandfather is the director of the medical office. Whatever he does here, people ask him to do it. Kiki. Zhao Siming glared at the girl with twin ponytails. Don't be rude. Zhao Kiki didn't care. Am I wrong? Lu Chuan was surprised. He didn't expect Zhao Siming to have this identity. He quickly said, Mr. Zhao, I'm so sorry. I thought you were here to do business as well. Zhao Siming smiled and said, Kiki has been spoiled since she was a child, and she doesn't think before she speaks. Don't take it to heart. Lu Chuan smiled and said it was okay. Zhao Siming asked, what do you want to do here? Lu Chuan answered truthfully, I want to ask how to apply for a medical license. Zhao Kiki immediately sneered. I thought he was a powerful figure, but it turns out that he doesn't even have medical license. Grandpa, why are you wasting your time with this guy? Let him go inside and ask for it himself. Zhao Siming glared at Zhao Kiki. Shut up. He doesn't have a medical license, do you? Zhao Kiki snorted. I'm about to get one. Zhao Siming ignored him and said to Lu Chuan, there are two ways to get a medical license. One is to take the unified examination. After passing, you will be issued a medical license, but this year's examination has just passed, so you may not be able to take it. Lu Chuan frowned. Wouldn't he have to wait another year? By then, the opportunity will be gone. He quickly asked, what about the second solution? Zhao Siming said, the second solution is that the medical office will have a few quotas every year to issue medical qualification certificates to people who have outstanding performance in the medical field without taking the exam. This year, there is only one quota left. Zhao Kiki said dissatisfiedly, Grandpa, why are you telling him this? Didn't you agree to leave the last quota for me? Lu Chuan sighed helplessly. It seemed that he would not be able to get a medical qualification certificate this year. What about the clinic? How about spending money to hire a few doctors with medical qualifications to work? But in this way, his plan for the Zhao family's industry would be ruined. Zhao Siming looked at Zhao Kiki unhappily. I said I would leave this spot to you, and it was also based on the premise that you perform well. Think about it yourself. Have you performed well? What else can you do except to make me angry? And Lu Chuan is a rare talent. He won the championship in the last medicinal material identification competition. What about you? You don't even dare to participate. Zhao Kiki pouted and said, how can he be a talent? He looks much worse than me. What's there to brag about in a championship of a crappy competition? Zhao Siming snorted coldly, just for your attitude, I will never give you this spot easily. He turned his head to look at Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan, don't worry, I have always been fair and just. I will not favor Zhao Kiki just because she is my granddaughter. It just so happens that I have to meet some old friends later. They got a treasure book in the medical field and plan to comprehend it together. You two can follow me to see it. Whoever has a higher understanding at that time, I will give this last spot to him. Lu Chuan's eyes lit up, and he quickly clasped his fists. Thank you, Mr. Zhao. Zhao Kiki snorted coldly, this guy is obviously a fool. What kind of understanding can he have? He is definitely not as good as me. Zhao Siming glared at her and turned to walk into the medical office. Lu Chuan hurriedly followed. The three of them came to the backyard of the medical office. There was a pond here with a small pavilion in it. Several old men were sitting in the pavilion. Old Zhao, you should hurry up. We are waiting for you to comprehend this medical book together. You are still dawdling. A fat old man complained. Zhao Siming smiled and said, I was irritated by my stupid granddaughter on the way. I came late. Please bear with me. Let me introduce you. This is Lu Chuan, the champion of the medicinal material identification competition I mentioned before. Several old men looked at Lu Chuan and nodded. Zhao Siming looked at Lu Chuan again. These people are the leaders of our Yancheng Chinese medicine community. Lu Chuan greeted them one by one. Zhao Kiki was unhappy and whispered, how am I stupid? If there is anyone stupid, it should be this guy. He came to grab my place for no reason. How shameless. Zhao Siming sat down at the table. Let these two children see the medical book today and see how talented they are in medicine. Okay, take out the book quickly, I can't wait. The fat old man immediately took out a box carefully. Lu Chuan came over, full of curiosity in his heart. The book that can be regarded as a medical book by the station Bidao must be extraordinary. I wonder what it says. Zhao Kiki also widened her eyes and came over. Seeing that Lu Chuan was closer than her, she muttered, why are you stretching your neck so long? You can't understand the medical book, even if you stretch it. That place must be mine. After that, she also stretched her neck. The fat old man opened the box, revealing an ancient old thread-bound ancient book with a strong historical flavor. Everyone looked at it intently. On this ancient book, which was praised as a medical classic, there was a line of large characters written in a flamboyant style, the fragment of the 9-turn Gyuan needle. Lu Chuan was stunned. Chapter 67 I have mastered the complete 9-turn Gyuan needle. It's the 9-turn return to origin needle. Zhao Siming's eyes were filled with excitement. He picked up the ancient book tremblingly. This is the divine medical skill that exists in the legend. The other old men were also shocked, as if they had seen a rare treasure. The fat old man smiled and said, when I first got this treasure book, I couldn't believe it. The birth of this legendary acupuncture method will have an immeasurable impact on our medical skills. It's a pity that I only got this fragment. There are 9 needles in the 9-turn return to origin needle, and this ancient book only talks about 3 of them. It's really a pity. An old man smiled and said, even if there are only 3 needles, we can learn a lot, so don't be greedy. The few people didn't dare to waste time and hurriedly studied the contents recorded in the ancient book carefully. Zhao Kiki glanced at Lu Chuan and found that he looked dazed. She couldn't help but sneer. This guy must have been scared silly by this immortal medical skill. Come to think of it, this level of medical skill is only heard of by people like me who come from an orthodox medical family. I'm afraid he hasn't even heard of the name of the 9-turn return to origin needle. After just half a quarter of an hour, everyone had gained a little bit of knowledge. Their understanding of medical skills became more profound, and they were impressed by the profoundness of this immortal medical skill from the bottom of their hearts. Lu Chuan frowned slightly on the side, because he found that many things recorded in this fragment were wrong. The 9-turn return to origin needle can only be regarded as an entry-level medical skill in the cultivation world. Even so, this ancient book is full of loopholes. The person who wrote this ancient book probably listened to oral narration and did not understand it thoroughly. After a long time, Zhao Siming closed the ancient book with an unsatisfied look. It is a great honor to see such a profound medical book today. Many doubts in my mind have been cleared up, and my medical skills should be able to reach a high level. The fat old man and the others nodded, and it seemed that they had learned a lot. Zhao Siming turned his head to look at Lu Chuan and Zhao Kiki and asked with a smile, tell me what you two have learned from this book. Zhao Kiki was excited and immediately told her what she had learned. Several old men listened with relish, nodding in approval from time to time. Kiki is one of the best in the younger generation. At her age, she can understand the 9-turn return to origin needle to this extent. She is already a leader. The fat old man praised. Zhao Kiki raised her head proudly. That's right. Don't you see whose granddaughter I am? Zhao Siming glared at her, but his eyes were full of joy. He looked at Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan, tell me what you understand too. Lu Chuan looked hesitant. He saw that everyone was very supportive of the fragment at the moment and was a little entangled whether to point out the loopholes in it. Seeing this, Zhao Kiki immediately sneered. You didn't understand what it was about at all, so you didn't understand it at all? She looked at Zhao Siming with a beaming face. Grandpa, what did I say? How can this guy be qualified to compete with me? You still say he is a talent, but I think he is a fool. Zhao Siming showed a puzzled expression to Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan sighed and said, there are many mistakes in this fragment. The person who wrote this book has limited understanding and wrote some places that should be flexible as his own assumptions. This kind of mistake has little effect on general illnesses, but if you encounter an emergency, it will cause big problems. Everyone, including Zhao Siming, frowned. Zhao Kiki was speechless. Are you sick? That is a medical classic, and you actually say that the person who wrote the medical classic has limited understanding? You can't understand anything from it, so there is no need to slander it like this. Lu Chuan said seriously, I'm just telling the truth. Several old men shook their heads, obviously disappointed. The fat old man looked at Zhao Siming and said, it seems that the young man you are optimistic about is not that good. Zhao Siming frowned and asked, why do you say that? Lu Chuan confessed, because I have mastered the complete 9-turn return to origin needle. Zhao Kiki laughed. Can you stop bragging? There are only 3 needles recorded in the medical classics. You dare to say that you have mastered the complete 9-turn return to origin needle? Who gave you the courage to say that? Fish Liang? The fat old man snorted coldly. You are so young, and you lie all the time. It's hard for you to achieve great things. Lu Chuan shrugged. If you don't believe it, I can prove it to you. The fat old man slammed the table. Do you think our time is worthless and can be wasted at will? Zhao Kiki sneered. It's speechless. What can you prove? You can only prove that you are a joke. I advise you not to embarrass yourself. Zhao Siming was in deep thought. He felt that Lu Chuan was not the kind of person who would talk big. After a little hesitation, he said, okay, I'll give you a chance, but you have to think clearly. This is your only chance. Lu Chuan nodded. Okay. Zhao Kiki immediately said, Grandpa. Shut up. Zhao Siming made up his mind. I have a dummy in my office for learning acupuncture. Come with me. Everyone walked towards Zhao Siming's office together. The fat old man shook his head. 9-turn return to origin needle is a culmination of medical skills. How can a young boy like him master it? Young people nowadays are so arrogant. Everyone came to the office. Zhao Siming put the dummy on the table, took out an acupuncture bag, and handed it to Lu Chuan. Let's start. Lu Chuan took the acupuncture bag and stood in front of the dummy. Zhao Kiki snorted. Let's see what tricks you can play. Lu Chuan took out a bunch of silver needles, performed the 9-turn return to origin needle, and pierced the acupuncture points on the dummy. Several old men were full of disdain, but when they saw Lu Chuan's technique, their expressions instantly became serious. This is actually the beginning of the 9-turn return to origin needle. Could it be that he has already learned it after reading the description of the 9-turn return to origin needle? Impossible. I have studied it for several days, but I haven't mastered even one needle. It is impossible for him to learn it in such a short time. The fat old man denied. Zhao Siming shouted, "Be quiet." Several people immediately fell silent and focused on watching Lu Chuan perform acupuncture. Zhao Kiki was stunned. Although she knew only a little about the 9-turn return to origin needle, she could see that Lu Chuan was indeed performing this set of acupuncture, and it was even more mysterious than what was recorded in the treasure book. Does he really know this legendary medical skill? Not long after, Lu Chuan finished demonstrating the 9-turn return to origin needle. Zhao Siming and others were already dumbfounded and shocked. Lu Chuan smiled slightly and began to talk about some problems in the fragment. After listening to it, everyone felt as if they had suddenly opened their eyes. So that's how it is. No wonder I felt something was wrong when I saw that part. I thought it was a fragment that didn't record everything, but I didn't expect it to be a mistake. It's really wonderful. Lu Chuan's explanation is more than 1 times more thorough than the classics. The fat old man looked ashamed. I misunderstood him. He is simply a treasure in the field of Chinese medicine. After Lu Chuan finished speaking, he bowed to several old men. Seniors, thank you for your show. Zhao Siming was excited and held Lu Chuan's hand. Lu Chuan, you really gave me a huge surprise. Lu Chuan smiled. Mr. Zhao, you're too kind. The fat old man came to Lu Chuan with a guilty face. He wanted to say something, but because he was too excited, he couldn't organize his words, so he simply raised his hand and slapped himself a few times. Seeing this, Lu Chuan hurriedly stopped him. Senior, this is not allowed. The fat old man said ashamedly. I was too self-righteous before. You must not take it seriously. Lu Chuan smiled and said, Senior, you are joking. I don't care. That's good. That's good. The fat old man breathed a sigh of relief. Zhao Siming tried to calm down and asked, Lu Chuan, where did you learn this 9-turn return to origin needle? Lu Chuan thought about it and said, my master has told me not to disclose it. Zhao Siming nodded and did not ask any more questions. After all, the 9-turn return to origin needle is a magical medical skill, and it is normal for people not to want to talk about it. He thought for a while, smiled and said to Lu Chuan, you go outside and wait for a while. We have to discuss some things. Are we going to decide who will get the last spot? Lu Chuan nodded, turned around and walked out. Zhao Siming glared at Zhao Kiki. You go out too. Zhao Kiki followed him out aggrievedly. Zhao Siming closed the door. He looked at the elders with a serious expression. Everyone, the 9-turn return to origin needle is of great importance. We must have a good relationship with Lu Chuan. What do you think? The fat old man stood up and said, anyone who masters the 9-turn return to origin needle is fully qualified to become a leader in the traditional Chinese medicine community in Yancheng. I will give up my position as team leader to Lu Chuan. The others agreed. Zhao Siming showed a playful smile on his face. It's too much of a waste to just let him be the team leader. I want him to be the deputy director of the medical office. Chapter 68, Changing the Plaque. In the corridor, Zhao Kiki kept looking at Lu Chuan. There was reluctance and dissatisfaction in her eyes, but more of it was shock and disbelief. After holding it in for a long time, she finally couldn't help but say, I didn't expect you to be so capable. I underestimated you. Lu Chuan smiled. You can actually praise others. It's really rare. Zhao Kiki looked annoyed. What do you mean? Do I look like the kind of person who would look down on others casually? Lu Chuan gave her a look and let her experience it herself. Zhao Kiki frowned, as if making a great sacrifice, and said, "You teach me the 9 turns return to origin needle, and I will give you that quota. I will only give you one chance, and you should know how to choose." Lu Chuan was speechless. "I believe your grandfather is a fair man." Zhao Kiki shouted loudly, "How can you be so ungrateful? I asked you to teach me. It's to give you face." Lu Chuan pouted, "I don't need it." Zhao Kiki gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. But in the end, she softened. She walked up to Lu Chuan and bowed. "I'm sorry, I was just bluffing. Please forgive me. Please give me a chance and teach me the 9-turn Gyuan needle." Lu Chuan couldn't help laughing. "You are really flexible." Zhao Kiki snorted, "That's right. Those who can achieve great things must be like me. So please teach me the 9-turn Gyuan needle, and when I achieve great things, I will definitely protect you." Lu Chuan rolled his eyes. "No." Zhao Kiki stomped her feet in anger. At this time, the door of the office opened. Zhao Siming and several leading figures in the traditional Chinese medicine community in Yanqing came out. Zhao Siming walked up to Lu Chuan with a smile on his face. "Lu Chuan, we have decided." Lu Chuan took a deep breath and thought that this quota was most likely given to me. "It seems that Mr. Zhao is still very reasonable. We decided to let you be the deputy director of the medical office. Then I would like to thank you very much." Lu Chuan said thank you, but when he reacted, he was dumbfounded for a moment. What? Zhao Siming laughed. "Let you be the deputy director of the medical office? Why, you don't want to? Then I can give you the position of director." Lu Chuan was surprised, thinking that I just wanted a place for a medical qualification certificate. How can I be a deputy director in a muddle? The medical office coordinates all matters big and small in the medical community of Yanqing. The director is the top leader and the deputy director is the second in command. If Lu Chuan becomes the deputy director, it can be said that he has risen to the top in the medical community of Yanqing. "Mr. Zhao, you are too polite. I just came to apply for a medical qualification certificate. Besides, I'm so young, and it is enough for the medical office to have you seniors to manage it. I'd better forget it." Lu Chuan refused. Zhao Siming frowned immediately. "Lu Chuan, you have mastered the 9-turn return to origin needle, and you are more than qualified to be the deputy director. Our request is also very simple. You teach us the 9-turn return to origin needle, and I can guarantee that when you are 30 years old, I will immediately step down and let you be the director. How about it?" Lu Chuan waved his hand quickly. "Mr. Zhao, I'm not interested in this, so don't embarrass me. Even if I don't become the deputy director, I can still teach you the 9-turn return to origin needle." The eyes of several old men lit up. Zhao Siming asked quickly, "Really?" Lu Chuan nodded seriously. Zhao Siming thought for a while and said, "Okay, since you are not interested in the position of deputy director, I will not force you, but no matter what you have in the future, you can come to us, and we will definitely help you unconditionally." "That's right." Several old men agreed. Lu Chuan bowed. "Thank you, seniors. As for the medical qualification certificate," Zhao Siming said quickly, "I'll have someone get it for you right away. If you don't have the medical qualification, then we old guys will have no face to live." Then he arranged for someone to get Lu Chuan a medical qualification certificate. Zhao Kiki rolled her eyes and came up with a plan in her mind. "I'll wait for my grandfather to learn the 9-turn return to origin needle from this guy first, and then let him teach me. When I learn it, I will make a big splash and surprise all of you." With Zhao Siming's arrangement, Lu Chuan quickly got a medical qualification certificate. He told Zhao Siming and others that he was going to open a clinic and asked them to find him if they wanted to learn the 9-turn return to origin needle, and then he said goodbye and left. After the documents were complete, Lu Chuan and Mu Nanking went to the clinic to pack up and prepare for the official opening. On the opening day, Lu Chuan set off 2 strings of firecrackers at the door of the clinic, which was considered the opening ceremony. Although there were only Lu Chuan and Mu Nanking in the clinic, they were both full of hope for the future. Lu Chuan sat in the lobby, waiting for the first patient to arrive. Mu Nanking sorted the medicinal materials and handled miscellaneous matters. Half a day passed, and no patient came, but a group of uninvited guests came. Fang Mao walked in with a group of doctors from Jerry's clinic, full of sarcasm. A group of people looked around, with no lack of sarcasm in their eyes. You two dare to open a clinic with just 2 people. You two are really brave. Lu Chuan glanced at them and said lightly, the essence of a person is not the number. You are indeed a lot of people, but I'm afraid that there are only a few who are really capable. Boy, who are you saying is incompetent? A man shouted. Fang Mao raised his hand to stop him, looked at Lu Chuan and said, it's good to have confidence, but don't you find that your clinic has been open for a long time, and there is no one to see a doctor? Lu Chuan said, it's just that the time is not right. Everyone in Jerry's clinic laughed. Fang Mao said in a condescending manner, to tell you the truth, the residents around here have long lost their trust in Chinese medicine, and they will not come to you for treatment. In this area, our Jerry clinic is the best choice for medical treatment. Even the hospital can't compare to us. I advise you to close down as soon as possible, otherwise it will just be a waste of time and money. A man laughed. Closing on the first day of opening, this may break the record. Lu Chuan had a calm face. It is precisely because of people like you who slander Chinese medicine that it is even more necessary for my clinic to continue. Fang Mao's face turned cold. Our Jerry clinic has achieved what it has today, based on real strength, not bragging like you. Since you don't know what's good for you, we won't waste our breath. Let's see how long you can last. Let's go. A group of people glared at Lu Chuan fiercely. It's strange that anyone comes to see a doctor in such a shabby clinic. I hope you close down soon and go home to starve. If you can take away one of our patients, I lose. After the people from Jerry's clinic left, Munan King came to Lu Chuan with a serious expression. These people are so hateful. Although colleagues are enemies, no one comes to mock like them. Lu Chuan smiled and said, they are just a bunch of clowns. Sister-in-law, don't take it to heart. Munan King sighed, but they are not all wrong. It has been so long, and there is indeed no one who comes to see a doctor here. Lu Chuan laughed. Everything is difficult at the beginning. Sister-in-law, don't be so pessimistic. I have a way to change this situation. Munan King's eyes lit up. What method? Lu Chuan said jokingly, change a plaque. Munan King was puzzled. Change the plaque? The plaque on the door is fine. What effect can changing the plaque have? Lu Chuan said, you will know after it is changed. He spread rice paper on the table, picked up the brush, and wrote boldly. Soon, the 4 big characters Xuanhu Medical Clinic appeared on the paper. It contains the artistic conception of Xuanhu to save the world. Just one glance can feel the compassion, selflessness, and trust in it. Lu Chuan picked up his phone and called an advertising store. Hello, I want to order a plaque. Because he paid more, the advertising store made it on an expedited basis. The next day, Lu Chuan got the plaque he had personally written. He replaced the plaque, looked up, and nodded with satisfaction. Munan King asked, will someone really come to see us after replacing this plaque? Lu Chuan smiled and said, I bet that within half an hour, someone will definitely come to see a doctor. Munan King obviously didn't believe it. If that's the case, I'll wash your clothes for you in the future. Lu Chuan smiled slightly. It's a deal. But 10 minutes later, an old man walked into the clinic. Doctor, my stomach has been uncomfortable these 2 days. Can you help me? Lu Chuan sat down. Old man, sit down and let me take your pulse. Then he began to take the old man's pulse, diagnose, and prescribe medicine. Munan King was stunned. Actually, someone actually came to see the doctor. The old man was just the beginning. After Lu Chuan prescribed medicine for the old man, several more people walked into the clinic and asked Lu Chuan to treat them. After a morning, there was a long queue of people waiting in front of the Xuanhu clinic. Munan King was full of curiosity. Taking advantage of Lu Chuan's free time, she hurriedly asked, Xiaochen, how did you do it? Why are so many people coming to see the doctor all of a sudden? Lu Chuan smiled and said, sister-in-law, you can see the plaque outside. Munan King walked out of the door, stood on the street, and looked up at her own plaque. When she saw the 4 words Xuanhu Clinic, she actually had a feeling in her heart that this was a real clinic that cured diseases and saved lives. A trace of trust naturally emerged in her heart, and the idea of if I'm sick, I will come here to see popped up in her mind. Xiaoqian's calligraphy is so contagious, no wonder everyone is lining up here. A smile appeared on Mu Nanking's face, and his admiration for Lu Chuan deepened. Jerry's clinic. Zhang Keiwen sat in front of the examination table, looking a little bored. It's really strange. Why are there so few people coming to see the doctor today? It's not a good habit not to get sick. At this time, Fang Miao passed by. Zhang Keiwen asked, Fang Miao, Zuanhu Medical Clinic opened yesterday. How is it going? Fang Miao smiled and said, Teacher, don't worry, we went to see it yesterday, and no one came to see a doctor. This morning I saw that they took down the plaque. Maybe they will close today. Zhang Keiwen nodded. The most frightening thing about people is that they have no self-knowledge. It is expected that they will not be able to open. At this time, a young doctor ran over in a hurry. Teacher, you should go and have a look. I don't know what method Zuanhu Medical Clinic used. People are running there to see a doctor. Now the line is 10 meters long. Chapter 69. Challenge. Zhang Keiwen slammed the table. What did you say? Fang Miao exclaimed. This is impossible. The man said helplessly. I didn't believe it at first, but this is the fact. You can go to the entrance of Zuanhu Clinic and see for yourself. Zhang Keiwen and Fang Miao looked at each other and hurried out of the clinic. In front of Zuanhu Clinic, Zhang Keiwen and Fang Miao looked at the long queue, gritting their teeth and frowning. Zhang Keiwen walked up to a middle-aged man who was queuing and asked, this Zuanhu Clinic almost killed someone before. Its reputation has been ruined for a long time. Why do you still come here to see a doctor? The middle-aged man said, I heard that the doctor of this clinic has been replaced, and his medical skills are superb. And I don't know why, but when I passed by here today, I inexplicably developed a trace of trust in this clinic. Plus there were so many people queuing, so I just followed suit. Zhang Keiwen cursed. What's trustworthy about Chinese medicine? Their so-called treatment is nothing but a scam. It's a miracle you can be cured here. Fang Miao rolled his big eyes and shouted, everyone, Chinese medicine has no scientific basis at all. They rely entirely on blind guessing to treat diseases. You can't put your life safety in the hands of these charlatans. If you really want to see a doctor, you still have to go to our Jerry clinic. Our Western medicine has a rigorous scientific basis and is much more reliable than Chinese medicine. Don't queue up here. When everyone heard this, they all felt that what he said made some sense, and many people began to give up the idea of seeing a doctor at Zuanhu Clinic. Fang Miao looked proud. These people are just following the crowd. The status of our Jerry clinic is not something that a crappy Chinese medicine doctor can shake. At this time, the old man who came to see Lu Chuan in the morning came and walked into the clinic with excitement on his face, shouting, miracles doctor. I only took the medicine you prescribed for me once, and it cured me. You are simply the reincarnation of Hua Tuo. Not only the old man, but also several patients who had seen effective results from taking the medicine prescribed by Lu Chuan also came to express their gratitude. The new doctor at Zuanhu Clinic is amazing. My leg hurt for 3 months, and I went to all the major hospitals, but couldn't get it cured. Finally, they just gave me an injection, and the pain went away immediately. Me too. I scratched my arm and the wound was repeatedly infected. I went to Jerry's clinic for treatment. I had all kinds of tests and imported medicines, and I spent a lot of money. As a result, it hasn't healed after a month. However, the doctor at Zuanhu Clinic only gave me a small bottle of ointment. After I applied it for a while, not only did the wound heal, but there was not even a scar. Someone asked curiously, you talk about it so magically, then is it very expensive to see a doctor at Zuanhu Clinic? One person smiled and answered, expensive? I've never seen a place cheaper than here to see a doctor. I spent tens of thousands at Jerry's clinic, and it wasn't cured, but here it was cured for a few hundred yuan. That's right, the amazing doctor at Zuanhu Clinic said that doctors should have a heart to save the world and will not embarrass ordinary people like us with treatment fees. This is a good doctor who truly serves the country and the people. Everyone was full of admiration. At that time, the people who were going to give up queuing and go to Jerry's clinic stood back silently. It seems that Chinese medicine is still quite reliable. The most important thing is that the fees are cheap, it can cure diseases, and it can be afforded by ordinary people like us. This is a good clinic. Fang Mao looked at this scene with a gloomy face, and he wanted to rush up and scold these people. You idiots, why don't you go to our Jerry clinic for treatment? We charge a high fee for a reason. This broken Chinese medicine is disrupting the market. Zhang Keiwen narrowed his eyes. It seems that this kid is not as simple as imagined. Fang Mao asked, teacher, what should we do? Zhang Keiwen said in a deep voice, we can't let this situation continue. Otherwise, once people believe that Chinese medicine can cure diseases, it will be bad. He put his hands behind his back and walked towards the Zuanu clinic. Let's go to the clinic. Fang Mao hurried to catch up. Lu Chuan was sitting in front of the examination table taking people's pulses. Seeing the people from Jerry's clinic come in, the corners of his mouth curled up. Zhang Keiwen said loudly, everyone, I'm the attending physician of Jerry Clinic. As early as a year ago, we have proved that Chinese medicine has no science at all. The old Chinese doctor at that time almost killed people. Our Western medicine is a real life-saving medicine. But today, I saw you all come here to line up for medical treatment. I'm really worried about you. They just found a few extras and fooled you all. But I also know that what you say is not convincing after all. So I plan to have a competition with Zuanhu Medical Clinic to prove whether Chinese medicine is a scam or Western medicine is scientific. He turned his head and looked at Lu Chuan. Do you dare to compete with our Jerry Clinic? Lu Chuan laughed. Sure. When everyone saw that the two companies were going to compete, they were no longer in a hurry to see the doctor, and they all gathered around to watch the fun. Zhang Keiwen looked at Fang Mao. Go and bring our professional instruments. Fang Mao nodded immediately. Not long after, the people from Jerry Clinic brought a lot of medical instruments to Zuanhu Medical Clinic. Our instruments add up to several million, but they are the most advanced ones at present, while their Chinese medicine clinic is extremely simple. This alone shows the difference. Fang Mao said proudly. Someone retorted, little girl, it's not about the price of instruments when treating a patient. As long as the disease can be cured, it doesn't matter if these instruments are not used. Fang Mao was immediately annoyed and glared at the person. If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense here. Zhang Keiwen waved his hand, signaling her not to care. Everyone, we are ready. I wonder if anyone is willing to volunteer. We won't charge a penny for the medical treatment today. A middle-aged man with a pale face, covering his chest, stood up. Let me try. I've been feeling chest tightness and difficulty breathing in the past few days, as if something is stuck in my lungs, and sometimes I cough up blood. Please help me take a look. Zhang Keiwen turned his head and looked at Lu Chuan. Do you want to go first or do we? Lu Chuan smiled and said, you go first. Zhang Keiwen was not polite and immediately ordered Fang Mao and others to start examining the middle-aged man. After a long time, Zhang Keiwen looked at the examination report, frowned and said, there is serious blood congestion in your lungs. Has your chest been hit violently? The middle-aged man nodded. I accidentally fell off the truck while working a few days ago, and my chest hit a rock. Zhang Keiwen said, your condition is very serious. You must undergo a thoracotomy as soon as possible to clear the blood congestion. Otherwise, your lungs will become diseased over time and you will not live long. The middle-aged man was so scared that his legs went limp. Is this so serious? I thought it was just a small problem, and I thought it would go away after taking some medicine. Fang Mao on the side said coldly, the image of your lungs is clear. Can't you tell whether it is serious or not? She turned her head and glanced at Lu Chuan with a provocative look. Can you Chinese medicine practitioners discover these problems of patients so promptly? Maybe you will just think that the patient just has some inflammation in the lungs. Many people nodded. I have to say that advanced scientific instruments are indeed of great help to medicine. This is something that traditional Chinese medicine cannot compare to. Western medicine is indeed more reliable. The middle-aged man's forehead was covered with cold sweat. He looked at Zhang Keiwen tremblingly and said, Doctor, I have a wife and children to support. Please save me. Zhang Keiwen said, I can waive the fee for today's examination, but open chest surgery is expensive. The preliminary estimate is that it will cost about 200,000. I can give you a discount and only charge you 150,000. You should prepare yourself in the next 2 days. After some more examinations, you can have the operation. 150,000. The middle-aged man's face was full of despair. He worked hard all his life and only saved this little money. However, in order to survive, he could only grit his teeth and agree. Okay, thank you doctor. Zhang Kaiwen nodded and looked at Lu Chuan. How about it? Do you admit that our Western medicine diagnosis and treatment is more scientific? Can you find out these conditions of patients just by taking the pulse? Fang Miao said sarcastically. They will only delay the patient's condition and eventually drag the patient to death. Lu Chuan smiled jokingly. Not only can I find out his condition, but I can also cure him now. It doesn't require the scary thoracotomy you mentioned, nor does it require the expensive treatment fee of 150,000. Everyone was shocked. Zhang Kaiwen snorted coldly. Even if you want to brag, there should be a limit. In his condition, there is no other way except thoracotomy to clear the blood stasis. How can you cure him now? Lu Chuan smiled faintly. Just one needle is enough. Fang Miao was speechless and shouted loudly. Did everyone see that this guy is talking nonsense and talking nonsense? Do you dare to let such a person treat you? Everyone showed doubtful eyes. Lu Chuan didn't care and said to the middle-aged man, come here and lie down. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, thinking that if Lu Chuan could really cure him with one shot, he could save 150,000 yuan, which was his life savings. His wife and children depended on this money to live. Even if there was a risk, it was worth a gamble. So he walked up to Lu Chuan and lay on the ground. Doctor, please cure me. I'm not afraid of death. If he died, he could ask for compensation for his wife and children. Lu Chuan smiled and said, don't worry, your little problem is not that serious. Then he took out a silver needle and squatted down. Zhang Kaiwen put his hands behind his back, full of contempt. Pretend. I want to see how you can cure him with one shot. Lu Chuan touched the middle-aged man's chest, asked about his condition, and then determined the position, and inserted the silver needle. The middle-aged man's eyes instantly widened, his face full of pain, a bloody smell rising from his chest, and then he quickly stood up and vomited a large pool of smelly and disgusting blood. Everyone was stunned. Chapter 70 Sister-in-law, you need to vent. Lu Chuan looked at the middle-aged man and asked, how do you feel? The middle-aged man's originally pale face returned to ruddy, and his mental state was obviously much better. He looked at Lu Chuan gratefully and said, I feel much better, doctor, you are really amazing. Lu Chuan smiled and said, then please clean up the blood clots on the ground yourself. The middle-aged man quickly got up. Okay, I'll clean it up right away. Zhang Kaiwen looked at this scene in disbelief, grabbed the middle-aged man and asked, are you really okay, or are you pretending? The middle-aged man said speechlessly, of course it's true. Do you think I'm okay? Lu Chuan said, if you don't believe it, you can check him again. Zhang Kaiwen snorted coldly and immediately asked Fang Miao to check the middle-aged man's body again. After seeing the examination report that was completely different from the previous one, everyone in Jera's clinic was stunned. Actually, it really was cured with just one injection. After cleaning up the blood clots on the ground, the middle-aged man saw that the examination showed nothing was wrong, and excitedly knelt down in front of Lu Chuan. Godly doctor, thank you for saving my life. You are simply my second parent. Lu Chuan waved his hand, signaling him not to be so excited, then looked at Zhang Kaiwen and said, Western medicine's treatment equipment is indeed very advanced, and there are many good points in your treatment methods, but this does not mean that Chinese medicine is a liar. Our Chinese medical skills have been passed down for thousands of years, and the wisdom contained in it is not comparable to Western medicine with only a few hundred years of history. I don't deny the value of Western medicine, but please don't promote yourself by belittling Chinese medicine. Everyone nodded in agreement. What Dr. Lu said is so right. I used to think that the clinic was unreliable, but now it seems that I was too stupid. Traditional Chinese medicine is the wisdom passed down by our ancestors. How can we doubt it? Traditional Chinese medicine is a cultural treasure. We should carry it forward. Zhang Kaiwen's face was extremely ugly. He gritted his teeth and said, even if traditional Chinese medicine can cure diseases, it is far less advantageous than Western medicine. Lu Chuan shook his head and didn't want to argue with him. At this time, the middle-aged man stood up and asked, Divine Doctor, you cured my disease. I wonder how much it costs in total? Lu Chuan said, give me 200. By the way, I will prescribe you a few more doses of medicine. After you take it and regulate your body will be completely restored. The middle-aged man burst into tears. Divine doctor, you are really a living bodhisattva. Jera's clinic asked me for 150,000 yuan, and that was just the cost of the operation, but you only charge me 200 yuan. Your clinic is a good place to save people from suffering. Everyone was excited and cast admiring eyes at Lu Chuan. The medical skills of Jera's clinic are not as good as others, and the fees are so exaggerated. They even have the nerve to say that they have advantages. They are really shameless. They are taking us for fools. This Jera's clinic is good for nothing except making money. Don't go to them for medical treatment in the future. Kick them out. They don't deserve to be here. The crowd was full of excitement and kicked out the people from Jera's clinic along with the equipment. Lu Chuan smiled and sat back at the examination table. People's eyes are sharp. Many things don't need him to solve. The people will make their own choices. After an afternoon, the reputation of Xuanhu Medical Clinic spread throughout the streets and alleys, and people came to see the doctor in an endless stream. The Jera's clinic, which used to be very popular, was deserted and no one cared. Zhang Kaiwen stood at the door, looking at the direction of Xuanhu Medical Clinic with a face full of resentment, gritting his teeth and said, destroying someone's financial resources is like killing their parents. Boy, the feud between us is settled. Just wait, I will make you regret it. Fang Mao said in despair, teacher, Xuanhu Medical Clinic is doomed to fail. Do we really have a chance to take revenge? Zhang Kaiwen snorted coldly, with a sinister look in his eyes. I have my own methods, just wait and see. 10 o'clock in the evening. Lu Chuan sent away the last patient, stood up and stretched. I didn't expect the clinic to be so popular. I can't handle it alone. It seems I have to find a way to recruit a few doctors. After taking care of the chores, Mu Nanking came to Lu Chuan and said with some heartache, Xiaochuan, you must be exhausted. Sit down quickly and let me massage your shoulders. Lu Chuan sat down with a smile. Then thank you, sister-in-law. Mu Nanking massaged Lu Chuan's shoulders and said with a smile, Xiaochuan, you are so amazing. You don't know that Jera's clinic has no patients at all. Lu Chuan smiled and said, they asked for it, so don't blame me. Mu Nanking raised the corners of his mouth and said with a little emotion, Xiaochuan knows medical skills, calligraphy, strong strength, and young. If sister-in-law had met you earlier, she would definitely fall in love with you. Lu Chuan quickly said, sister-in-law, you flatter me too much. You and eldest brother are a perfect match. It's a pity that eldest brother. Mu Nanking sighed. Actually, she hesitated to speak, rolled her big eyes, and said, Xiaochuan, I haven't felt well recently. How about you take a look for me? Lu Chuan said, okay, sister-in-law, I'll take your pulse. Mu Nanking handed over her smooth and white wrist. Lu Chuan put his hand on it, and after a moment, he looked at Mu Nanking with a strange look. Mu Nanking asked shyly, Xiaochuan, is there a problem? Lu Chuan coughed twice and said, sister-in-law, your body is a little depressed, which leads to a little endocrine disorder, and the yin fire is a little strong. You have to vent it. Mu Nanking seemed to know her condition, blinked her big eyes and asked, then how can I vent it? Lu Chuan couldn't help but recall the time when he went home and accidentally heard the movement in Mu Nanking's room. A touch of embarrassment appeared on his face. It's just, there are only two ways, one is to do it yourself, and the other is to find a boyfriend. Mu Nanking looked at Lu Chuan expectantly. Lu Chuan took a deep breath, but still didn't dare to say it out loud, so he said, I'll prescribe some medicine for you to take care of yourself. Mu Nanking was stunned. Just take some medicine? No need to do anything else? Lu Chuan nodded. Yes, just take some medicine. Mu Nanking looked disappointed. Okay then. She turned around with resentment in her eyes. Lu Chuan said, sister-in-law, you massaged my shoulders, and it felt very comfortable. Can you massage me again? HMPH, massage yourself. I'm tired and I'm going home to sleep. Mu Nanking said coldly and left directly. Lu Chuan looked confused. Why did her temperament change so suddenly? Maybe it's endocrine disorders that cause emotional instability. I have to prescribe more medicine for her. In the next few days, the business of Xuanhu Medical Clinic was getting better and better, and its reputation almost spread throughout the entire Yancheng. Jerry's clinic, which should have been thriving, suddenly fell to the bottom and was extremely bleak. That night, after seeing the patient, Lu Chuan said to Mu Nanking seriously, "Sister-in-law, we must find a few doctors to work on duty, otherwise I will be exhausted sooner or later." Mu Nanking nodded. "But where can we find qualified Chinese medicine practitioners?" Lu Chuan was also a little overwhelmed. After all, he had no experience in this area. Just when the two were worried, Zhao Siming brought several leading figures in the Chinese medicine community in Yancheng into the clinic. "Lu Chuan, your clinic has been in the limelight these days. You can hear people talking about it wherever you go. We didn't dare to come during the day. I hope we won't disturb you if we come now," Zhao Siming said with a smile. Lu Chuan quickly stood up to greet him. "Mr. Zhao, what are you talking about? You are welcome to come anytime. I'll go pour tea," Mu Nanking said politely. Zhao Siming asked with a smile, "The clinic is so popular, you must be too busy to handle it alone, right?" Lu Chuan said helplessly, "Yes, I'm worried about where to recruit a few Chinese medicine practitioners. Seniors, do you have any suitable people to recommend?" Several old men looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. Zhao Siming turned his head to look at them and nodded to them. Then several people lined up and stood in front of Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan was puzzled. "Seniors, what are you doing?" Zhao Siming took the lead in kneeling, and several old men immediately knelt in front of Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan was startled and hurried to help. "Seniors, what are you doing? Get up quickly." Zhao Siming bowed and said, "Lu Chuan, we are here for the 9-turn return to Origin Needle. It is our honor that you are willing to teach us. We should show enough sincerity. We are here to become your apprentice today. From now on, you are our master. Master, please accept your disciple's greeting." Zhao Siming bowed to the ground. The other elders said in unison, "Please accept my disciple's greetings." They bowed together. Lu Chuan was immediately anxious. "Seniors, you are going to embarrass me. Even if you don't become my disciples, I will still teach you the 9-turn return to Origin Needle." Zhao Siming stood up and said with a smile, "You don't care, but we must be polite. Master, from today on, we will be apprentices in the Xuanhu Medical Clinic. You can't drive us away." Several old men echoed. Lu Chuan looked helpless, and seeing their firm attitude, he had to agree. "Okay, seniors, please stand up quickly. I agree. Now there is no need to worry about where to recruit Chinese medicine practitioners. The leading figures in the Chinese medicine community in Yancheng have come to be apprentices, so why should we recruit people?" Zhao Siming and others were all smiling. "Then we will come to work tomorrow." Lu Chuan was a little embarrassed and said, "You guys get ready. I will teach you a little bit of the 9-turn Gyuan Needle today. Otherwise, I will feel bad." Several old men suddenly became excited. At the same time, in Jera's clinic, Zhang Kaiwen sent away a man in his 30s with enthusiasm. "Brother Cheng, then we have settled this matter. You must come tomorrow." The man smiled and agreed. "Don't worry, Cheng will never break his promise." Then he drove away. Zhang Kaiwen breathed a sigh of relief. Fang Miao hurried over and asked, "Teacher, isn't that man a Chinese medicine doctor? Why are you cooperating with him?" Zhang Kaiwen sneered and said, "Chinese medicine is not as simple as we thought. If we want to defeat Lu Chuan, we can only ask Chinese medicine masters for help. At that time, as long as we use the name of our Jerry clinic, who will care whether he is a Chinese medicine doctor or a Western medicine doctor? You go and make arrangements. Tomorrow, the news will be out that our Jerry clinic will go to Xuanhu Medical Clinic again to challenge. This time, we will definitely win." Fang Miao was surprised. "Teacher, that Lu Chuan is not simple. Are you really so confident?" Zhang Kaiwen smiled. "Of course. The man just now was named Cheng Yang. Do you know his identity?" Fang Miao shook his head. "I don't know." Zhang Kaiwen said proudly, "He is the leading figure in the Chinese medicine community and the apprentice of Dr. Zhao Siming. Do you think that Lu Chuan, a rookie, can compare with Cheng Yang?" Fang Miao's eyes suddenly lit up. "Of course he can't. Teacher, don't worry, I will arrange the challenge tomorrow." Chapter 71 Master, why are you here? The next morning, Lu Chuan looked at the 5 old men who were dressed as apprentices and working diligently, with a helpless look on his face. If people outside knew that our apprentices were the 5 big names in the traditional Chinese medicine community in Yancheng, they would probably be shocked. At this time, there was a noise outside, and many people gathered at the door of the clinic. Mu Nanking walked over with a serious expression. Lu Chuan walked over and asked, "Sister-in-law, what happened outside?" Mu Nanking said, "The people from Jerry's clinic are coming to challenge us today. These people outside are here to watch the fun." Lu Chuan raised his eyebrows. "The last time they challenged us, no one went to their clinic for treatment. How dare they come again?" Mu Nanking said with some concern, "I heard from people outside that Jerry's clinic came prepared this time. It seems that they have invited a powerful doctor. Otherwise, it would be impossible to make such a big scene. Zhao, what should we do?" Zhao Siming walked over and snorted, "Someone dared to come to our clinic to challenge us. I want to see what powerful people they have invited." Lu Chuan laughed, "That's right. With Mr. Zhao and several seniors here, no matter who comes to challenge us, we don't have to be afraid. Sister-in-law, don't worry." Mu Nanking thought so too. Several of the most experienced old Chinese medicine practitioners in Yancheng are here. They really have nothing to be afraid of. In front of Jerry's clinic, Zhang Kaiwen looked at Cheng Yang with full respect and said, "Brother Cheng, this time, I'm relying on you for the challenge." Cheng Yang said proudly, "Brother Zhang, don't worry. There are not many young people in the current Chinese medicine community who can compare with me. This time, I will definitely make that Lu Chuan lose miserably." Zhang Kaiwen smiled, "I feel relieved when you say that." Fang Miao walked over with excitement. "Teacher, our friends in the media have already made arrangements. They will broadcast the entire challenge online today. By then, people in the entire Yancheng will be able to see Zuanhu Medical Clinic lose to our Jerry Clinic." Zhang Kaiwen nodded with satisfaction. "Well done. This kind of thing should be broadcast live so that the people of the whole city know the strength of our Jerry Clinic." He turned his head to look at Cheng Yang and said, "Brother Cheng, this is also a good opportunity for you to become famous. Zuanhu Medical Clinic has become very famous in Yancheng recently. If you beat Lu Chuan, you will be the miracle doctor that people talk about." Cheng Yang showed a hint of expectation on his face and said with a smile, "You flatter me too much. The title of miracle doctor should be given to my master." Zhang Kaiwen said, yes, everyone can see that Mr. Zhao's level is obvious to all. He is indeed worthy of the title of miracle doctor. I wonder what he thinks about this challenge?" Cheng Yang said, "I didn't tell him about this matter, but if he knew, he would support me with all his strength." Zhang Kaiwen nodded and said nothing more. The group walked towards the Zuanhu Medical Clinic in a mighty manner. On the way, Fang Miao said sarcastically, "I saw that Zuanhu Medical Clinic recruited several apprentices, and they were all old men in their twilight years. Lu Chuan is so stingy that he doesn't even want to pay for finding young and strong apprentices." Zhang Kaiwen sneered, "Doesn't this just show that everyone is not optimistic about their Zuanhu Medical Clinic? How can those who really want to seek development go there? Only those old men who have no education, no knowledge, and no agility are willing to go there. Brother Cheng, what do you think?" Cheng Yang nodded. "Indeed, he is still going to be an apprentice at such an old age. He is obviously an old man who has no job. This shows that Lu Chuan has no business vision and uses everyone indiscriminately. It's ridiculous." Everyone came to the door of Zuanhu Medical Clinic. Zhang Kaiwen shouted, "Lu Chuan, get out here. My Jerry Clinic is here to challenge you today. We will use our strength to prove that you are not worthy of opening a clinic on this street." Lu Chuan walked out and said lightly, "Whether I'm worthy of opening a clinic here, everyone already knew it last time. But you, instead of reflecting on your loss once, you come here to lose a second time. Don't you feel ashamed?" Zhang Kaiwen snorted coldly, "Last time we just saw that you had just opened your business, so we gave you face and deliberately lost to you. This time it's different." He pointed at Cheng Yang. "This is the doctor we brought to our clinic. His level is far from comparable to a half-baked person like you. This time he will compete with you." Cheng Yang looked at Lu Chuan jokingly and said, "You are so young, it's not easy to make a name for your clinic, but I heard that your apprentices are all old, weak, sick and disabled." Don't you have money to hire young people as apprentices? Lu Chuan's face turned cold. Please be respectful. The status of my apprentices is not ordinary. At least you can't judge them casually. Chen Yang sneered. A bunch of good-for-nothing old guys. And you think they have a special status? If they really had a special status, would they come to be your apprentices? Lu Chuan frowned. At this time, an angry voice sounded. Good-for-nothing old guys? Chen Yang, I didn't expect that I would be this kind of image in your mind. Lu Chuan turned his head and found that Zhao Siming came out with 4 other old men. Chen Yang was stunned at first, but when he saw the apprentice clothes on Zhao Siming, his face changed wildly. His eyes swept over the 4 people behind Zhao Siming, and his body couldn't stop shaking instantly. Master, Master, Elder Sun, Elder Zhu, Senior Zhao, Elder Li. Gulp. Chen Yang swallowed hard. Zhang Kaiwen looked puzzled, but when he saw the appearance of Zhao Siming and others clearly, he exclaimed, "It's Dr. Zhao." Fang Miao couldn't believe it. Dr. Zhao. This old man is the famous Dr. Zhao. How is this possible? Many people in the crowd who were watching the excitement also recognized Zhao Siming and others. It's actually Mr. Zhao Siming. He's an apprentice in Zuanhu Medical Clinic. The 4 people behind Mr. Zhao are all well-known figures in Yancheng's Chinese medicine circle. They are all apprentices in Zuanhu Medical Clinic. I remember now. Isn't the doctor in Jerry's clinic Chen Yang, Zhao Siming's apprentice? He actually kicked his own master. The reporters and photographers present immediately began to turn the screen to Chen Yang, Zhao Siming and others. A reporter said seriously, the miracle Dr. Zhao Siming was kicked out by his own apprentice. Is it a distortion of the master-apprentice relationship or the loss of interest distribution? I'm Bingbing, and I will bring you the first-hand report below. Chen Yang took a long time to react. His forehead was covered with cold sweat, and he asked tremblingly, Master, seniors, why are you here? We are apprentices in Zuanhu Medical Clinic. Zhao Siming snorted coldly, and his eyes swept over Chen Yang sharply, which made Chen Yang feel creepy, and got goosebumps all over his body. Why do you want to come to our clinic to challenge us? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 72 Selling Medicine. Chen Yang was soaked in sweat and forced out an awkward smile. How could it be, Master? This is a misunderstanding. Zhao Siming pointed at the people watching the excitement with a gloomy face. Misunderstanding? Are they all here to see the misunderstanding? He scolded. From now on, don't call me Master anymore. I don't have a disciple like you. Chen Yang shuddered and knelt in front of Zhao Siming with a plop. Master, this is really a misunderstanding. If I knew you were here, I would never come to challenge you. Zhao Siming glanced at the people in Jerry's clinic. Even if I'm not here, you can represent the Western Medicine Clinic to challenge the Chinese Medicine Clinic? You are a traitor. We don't need scum like you in the Chinese medicine community. Chen Yang was desperate and knelt on the ground, begging Zhao Siming for forgiveness. The people in Jerry's clinic were all stunned, and no one expected things to develop like this. We haven't even started to challenge the clinic, and we have already lost. Fang Miao muttered to himself. Zhang Kaiwen clenched his fists. How can Zhao Siming come here to be an apprentice? How can Zhao Siming come here to be an apprentice? At this time, an internet celebrity came to Zhang Kaiwen with a mobile phone and asked, aren't you going to challenge Jerry Clinic? Are you going to challenge or not? Your attending physician has knelt down in front of him. Does this count as admitting defeat? Please give me a definite answer quickly. My family is still waiting to see the fun. Zhang Kaiwen was full of anger and pushed the internet celebrity away directly. Get out. Get out now. Whoever takes another photo will be killed. The internet celebrity quickly stepped back and pointed his mobile phone at Zhang Kaiwen. Hit someone. The people from Jerry Clinic are not challenging but hitting someone. The reporters and cameramen present surrounded Zhang Kaiwen. Zhang Kaiwen looked at the camera and mobile phone pointed at him and roared. Which idiot said that this challenge would be broadcast live? Now, the whole Yancheng is watching the joke of our Jerry Clinic. Fang Miao silently retreated behind the crowd. The people in Jerry's clinic couldn't stand the pressure from the reporters and a group of internet celebrities and fled back to Jerry's clinic. Lu Chuan watched this farce-like kick-out hastily come to an end and couldn't help but sigh. This is probably what you sowed. Cheng Yang knelt in front of Zhuanhu Medical Clinic for a whole day. In the end, Lu Chuan came forward and begged Zhao Siming for mercy, and Zhao Siming agreed to let Cheng Yang be a handyman in Zhuanhu Medical Clinic and then decide whether to expel him based on his performance. This kick-out was broadcast live and made the headlines of Yancheng News. Jerry's clinic has completely become a joke in the medical community of Yancheng. On the contrary, Zhuanhu Medical Clinic became famous in Yancheng through this kick-out. Even Zhao Siming and other leading figures in the traditional Chinese medicine community condescended to run to Zhuanhu Medical Clinic as apprentices, so the level of Zhuanhu Medical Clinic can be imagined. For a while, there were so many people coming to Zhuanhu Clinic to see a doctor that the door was almost broken. Jerry Pharmaceuticals. Xiao Yun pushed the door and walked into the chairman's office. His father Xiao Shan threw a newspaper at him. If you can't even run a small clinic, what else can you do? Xiao Yun looked at the newspaper and saw Zhang Kaiwen baring his teeth and claws as if he was about to hit someone. He was furious and lowered his head and dared not speak. He already knew about the kick-out incident and that the person who took over Zhuanhu Clinic was Lu Chuan. After Xiao Shan calmed down, he said, although you disappointed me this time, Jerry Clinic is just a pilot project after all, and it has little impact on our company. Next, our company plans to launch several health products, focusing on strengthening the body, regulating the mind, and preventing diseases. At present, no one has set foot in this market in Yancheng. The matter of seizing the market is left to you. You must do it for me. This is a top priority for the company and cannot fail. Do you understand? Xiao Yun nodded quickly. Dad, don't worry, I will never let you down this time. Xiao Shan waved his hand. Go. Xiao Yun turned and left the office, gritting his teeth and said, Lu Chuan, you just opened a broken clinic. Your achievements are nothing to my Jerry Pharmaceuticals. Wait until I take over the market for these health products and regain my father's trust, and then I will deal with you. Zhuanhu Clinic. Backyard. Lu Chuan sat leisurely on a recliner, playing with 3J bottles in his hands. Although the clinic is now crowded with patients, with Zhao Siming and 5 other old Chinese doctors there, Lu Chuan doesn't need to treat patients. Cheng Yang also does the miscellaneous work in the clinic. Lu Chuan is now free. At this time, Mu Nanking came over with a cup of tea. Xiao Chun, the weather is dry, have a cup of tea. Lu Chuan sat up with a smile, took the tea from Mu Nanking's hand, and said with a smile, the tea brewed by my sister-in-law is really fragrant. Mu Nanking glanced at him with a reproachful look and asked, I saw you sitting in the yard for a long time, what are you thinking about? Lu Chuan said, thinking about the next development of the clinic. Mu Nanking was puzzled, the clinic is so popular now, how to develop it next? Lu Chuan smiled, the clinic is just the first step. I want to build a behemoth that can compete with Jerry Pharmaceuticals and even the Long family. Mu Nanking was surprised. Then what do you want to do? Lu Chuan put the 3 jade bottles on the stool next to him. Sell medicine. Mu Nanking picked up a jade bottle curiously and asked, what medicine is this? Lu Chuan said, they are Piu and Dan, Yankee Dan, and Beiji Dan. Piu and Dan can strengthen the body, Yankee Dan can warm the spirit, and Beiji Dan can cure diseases and detoxify, making people immune to all poisons. Mu Nanking looked suspicious. Why does it sound so much like a health product? Will anyone really buy it? Lu Chuan laughed. Sister-in-law, try it first. Mu Nanking took out a Yankee pill without hesitation and put it into her mouth. In just a moment, she felt that her mental state had changed. Almost in the blink of an eye, her state reached its peak, and she felt refreshed. She had been busy with the clinic these days, and she didn't sleep well. She was always nervous and a little tired, but after taking this Yankee pill, all her symptoms disappeared. She felt that her brain was more relaxed than ever before, and she felt so comfortable that she wanted to make a sound. What a magical pill. She quickly poured out a Piuan pill and put it into her mouth. After a while, Her fatigue was swept away, and her sore waist and legs, muscle soreness, etc. all disappeared, and the whole person became more energetic. She took another Beiji pill. This time she didn't feel anything. After all, the effect of Beiji pill can only be seen after poisoning. Munan King looked at Lu Chuan excitedly. Xiao Chuan, these 3 kinds of pills are simply too powerful. They are magical pills. If you sell them, no matter how expensive they are, I'm sure someone will buy them. Lu Chuan smiled and said, people nowadays are under great work pressure, get up early, and stay up late, work overtime, are exhausted physically and mentally, and have low immunity. I plan to launch these 3 medicines for this situation. He plans to sell medicine for another purpose, to impact the status of Jerry Pharmaceuticals in Yancheng. Since he has already planned to use Xiao Yun as a stepping stone, how could he limit himself to destroying a small clinic? However, with the current size of Xuanhu Medical Clinic, it is still far from competing with Jerry Pharmaceuticals, so Lu Chuan has to find someone to invest in order to promote these 3 medicines. Otherwise, even if the wine is good, it will only be sold in the alley. Just when he was thinking about where to find someone to invest, the phone rang. It was Qi Zhen'an calling. Lu Chuan, are you free tonight? I want to treat you to a meal. Lu Chuan asked, does the richest man Qi have something to talk to me about? Qi Zhen'an smiled and said, yes, I want to ask you for a small favor. Let's talk about it when you come. Lu Chuan agreed. Okay, I'll go there in the evening. After hanging up the phone, Lu Chuan rolled his eyes, thinking about meeting Qi Zhen'an in the evening to see if he could get him to invest in his medicine. In the evening, Lu Chuan took a taxi and rushed to Qi Zhen'an's mansion. On the way, the taxi driver smiled and asked, young man, did you go to the richest man's mansion to punch in? Lu Chuan said, no, the richest man has something to talk to me about and invited me to dinner. The driver laughed. Yo, you look young, but you are even better at bragging than me. Those who can be treated to dinner by the richest man must at least have a private driver, not like you who took a taxi. Lu Chuan smiled slightly without explaining. Not long after, the driver drove the car to the door of Qi Zhen'an's mansion. Qi Zhen'an was already waiting here. Seeing Lu Chuan sitting in the taxi, he came over to open the door himself. The driver wanted to say something to Lu Chuan, asking him to stop bragging and do more practical things, but when he saw Qi Zhen'an coming over to open the door, he was immediately stunned. The richest man. It's really the richest man Qi. Lu Chuan got out of the car and was polite to Qi Zhen'an. Then he turned his head and smiled at the driver jokingly, saying, Master, I don't like bragging. Then he and Qi Zhen'an went into the mansion. The driver swallowed his saliva and said in disbelief, the richest man is so polite to that kid. What kind of person is he? I have also been a driver of big shots. I must brag to them later. Inside the mansion, as Lu Chuan walked, he asked, Mr. Qi, what do you want to talk to me about? Qi Zhen'an smiled and said, there's no rush for this. Let's talk alone later. It just so happens that several masters from the cultivation world are here to exchange ideas about magic weapons. I'll take you to see the world first. Lu Chuan raised his eyebrows. Masters from the cultivation world? Qi Zhen'an nodded. Yes, these few are masters with real magical powers. I have been smooth sailing in the past few years because of their guidance. You must be careful later and don't anger them. Lu Chuan nodded and asked, are their magic weapons very powerful? Qi Zhen'an looked serious. Of course, the magic weapons of the masters can show their powers. You will know when you see them later. Lu Chuan didn't say anything else, but he was thinking in his heart, I wonder which one is stronger, their magic weapons or my purple cloud pearl. Chapter 73. Can this be called a magic weapon? The two came to the living room. Several old men with immortal looks were sitting on the sofa chatting. Qi Zhen'an bowed respectfully. Masters, this is a friend of mine named Lu Chuan. I brought him here to open his eyes and see the magic weapons of the masters. Several old men nodded slightly, not taking Lu Chuan seriously. Qi Zhen'an took Lu Chuan to the side and said, let's watch here. Lu Chuan nodded, and a little expectation arose in his heart. Apart from the purple cloud pearl, he had not seen other magic weapons. An old man with a goatee took out a palm-sized slightly worn compass from his bosom and said proudly, "I got this compass from the tomb of a Taoist master. Although it is old and a little damaged, it can still be stimulated, gather the vitality of heaven and earth, and nourish the mind. It is a rare treasure." An old man in a Taoist robe said with a smile, "I have heard that Mr. Key's compass is a profound magical instrument that can move heaven and earth and produce miracles. It is a great honor to see it today. Mr. Key, why don't you show us the magic of this compass?" The old man with a goatee was very happy and stroked his beard with a smile. "Okay, since everyone is so interested, I will cover it up." Everyone was immediately interested. Lu Chuan also looked over curiously. The old man with a goatee held the compass in his hand as if he was using his power and injected a force invisible to the naked eye into it. Lu Chuan could sense this force, but it seemed too weak for him. Is this what they call mana? It doesn't seem as powerful as Qishiangang. Soon, the pattern engraved on the compass glowed, and a gentle breeze appeared in the living room. Everyone felt refreshed. It can actually gather spiritual energy, but the effect is a little bit poor. It is far inferior to my purple cloud pearl. I guess the real power is still behind. Lu Chuan murmured in his heart. The old man with a goatee maintained the state of the living room surrounded by thin spiritual energy for a few minutes, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. He took a deep breath, collected his mana, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and smiled. "Everyone, I'm sorry to show you my performance." Everyone praised him. "The heavenly star plate is indeed extraordinary. Just now I felt like I was in a fairyland." Mr. Key can maintain this state for several minutes. It seems that his Taoism is close to that of a master. Mr. Key can use such a rare magic weapon. It is really enviable. Key Zenlian also hurriedly said, "It is my honor to feel the power of a real magic weapon today. When I meet others in the future, I will have something to talk about." Only Lu Chuan was stunned. Is it over? This so-called heavenly star plate can only condense spiritual energy a little? There is no follow-up. Can this be called a magic weapon? He thought that the old man with a goatee was just warming up to condense spiritual energy. Who would have thought that this was all? The old man with a goat beard listened to the praises of the crowd, his face full of joy, and said with a smile, "Although my Xiangxing plate is extraordinary, the magic tools in the hands of the masters are also extraordinary. Take them out for everyone to see." Qi Zenlian looked at Lu Chuan with a little pride and whispered, "How is it? Are you shocked?" Just now, the magic tool appeared, and I felt refreshed, and my mental state improved a lot. This is not something that ordinary people can feel. Lu Chuan smiled awkwardly and said nothing. Qi Zenlian thought Lu Chuan was a little strange, and murmured in his heart, "I guess it's the first time he has seen such a magical scene," and he was shocked and speechless. The old man with a goat beard glanced at Lu Chuan, looking a little dissatisfied. After all, Lu Chuan was the only one who didn't praise his Xiangxing plate. But he didn't say anything, just thinking that Lu Chuan was a country bumpkin with little knowledge and couldn't tell the quality of the magic tool. Then the remaining masters showed their magic tools one by one. There are night shining pearls that can help you sleep, bells that can temporarily make your brain twitch, and peachwood swords that can dispel negative energy. Seeing these things made Lu Chuan's face twitch, and he was extremely disappointed. He originally thought that he could see a real magical instrument with power. Unexpectedly, it was just some antique collections with a bit of speciality. Several masters kept praising the power of each other's magical instruments. Qi Zenlian exclaimed repeatedly on the side, as if he really thought these so-called magic instruments were powerful. At this time, the master in Taoist robe smiled and said, "Although our magical instruments are not bad, they are still far inferior to Master Qishiangang's soul-controlling mirror. His is the magical instrument that can really be used for fighting. In the world of cultivation, those who have a little bit of Taoism are called masters, and those who are more powerful are masters. Those who have profound magical powers and can attract thunder and catch ghosts are called heavenly masters." Everyone nodded in agreement. The goat-bearded master said, "Master Qi will be here soon, and we can see the power of his soul-controlling mirror." Qi Zenlian was excited. In Yunsheng, there are many people who dare to call themselves masters, but Qi Xianggang is the only one who dares to call himself a master. It is an honor for him that such a big figure in the cultivation world is visiting him. Lu Chuan was slightly puzzled. Soul controlling mirror? Could it be that broken bronze mirror? He shook his head helplessly. I really overestimate these cultivators on Earth. Compared with the masters of magic in the cultivation world, they are just like playing house. At this time, the goat-bearded old man noticed Lu Chuan's disappointed expression and shook his head. He slammed the table and snorted, "Boy, you seem to look down on our magic weapons." The living room was instantly quiet, and everyone turned their heads to look at Lu Chuan. Qi Zhenlan quickly tried to smooth things over. "Master Qi, what are you saying? Lu Chuan must have been impressed by your advanced magical weapons. How could he look down on them?" The old man with a goatee had a grim expression. "Impressed? He's been looking disdainful from the beginning. Not only did he not praise our magical weapons, but he kept showing disappointment. I think our magical weapons are simply not up to his eyes." Qi Zhenlan had cold sweat on his forehead. He quickly looked at Lu Chuan and said, "Lu Chuan, quickly tell the masters that you don't look down on their magical weapons. The magical weapons of the masters are extraordinary. Don't you admire them?" Lu Chuan smiled faintly and said, "He's right. Their so-called magical weapons are indeed not up to my eyes." Several masters slammed the table and glared at Lu Chuan. Qi Zhenlan's scalp was numb, and he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Lu Chuan, are you crazy? They are famous masters of cultivation in Yancheng. Even if you are strong in martial arts, you can't be so disrespectful to them. Hurry up and apologize to the master sincerely, otherwise even if I plead for you, it will be useless." Lu Chuan laughed. "I just told the truth. Why should I apologize to them?" Several masters were furious. "Ignorant boy, who gave you the courage to provoke us here? Although we are not the top in the cultivation world, we have been famous for many years. Are you, an arrogant junior, qualified to judge our magic weapons? This kid is too arrogant. He should be taught a lesson." Qi Zhenlan was trembling with fear and regretted bringing Lu Chuan here. The old man with a goat beard stared at Lu Chuan and said, "Boy, we won't bully you, lest you say we are bullying the weak. Since you think our magic weapons are not up to your standards, then take out a magic weapon that you think is powerful and let us have a look. Otherwise, you are just a jumping clown." Lu Chuan laughed. "That's exactly what I meant." Qi Zhenlan was speechless and quickly grabbed Lu Chuan. "Lu Chuan, stop making trouble. You will not end well if you go against those masters. Their magic weapons have already surpassed the scope of ordinary people's understanding. How can you come up with more powerful magic weapons?" Lu Chuan said lightly, "Those things of his can only be regarded as toys at best, and have nothing to do with magic weapons." The old man with a goat beard said angrily, "What a big tone. The magic weapons we are waiting for can only be regarded as toys. Then tell me, what real magic weapons look like?" Lu Chuan said seriously, "A real magic weapon can kill people in an instant, can be formed in a thought, or can draw the power of heaven and earth in the blink of an eye, control thunder, and can also make spiritual energy like fog to help people practice." Several masters looked at each other and laughed. "Boy, have you been watching TV and become stupid? Does the thing you said really exist? I thought he really saw some powerful magic weapon, but it turns out that he came here to talk nonsense. It's a pity that you don't use your imagination to make TV." The old man with a goat beard sneered, "Everyone can brag. If you have the ability, you can show us such a magic weapon." Qi Zhenlan sighed. "How can a magic weapon that only exists in legends exist? Lu Chuan is really crazy." Lu Chuan raised his hand directly. The purple cloud beads dispersed, circled around his arm for a few circles, and then floated above his palm. Purple light shone on it. In an instant, the spiritual energy from all directions rushed towards the living room and enveloped everyone. The contempt on everyone's face disappeared instantly, replaced by indescribable shock. How is this possible? Such rich spiritual energy, they are madly drilling into my body. I feel about to explode." Several masters were all flushed, and the excess spiritual energy washed over their bodies, making them extremely painful. "Quick, stop." The old man with a goat beard shouted. Lu Chuan then stopped the effect of gathering spirits. He twisted his hand seal, and a complex array pattern appeared on the purple cloud bead. In an instant, a dark cloud condensed on the ceiling of the living room. There was a strong wind in the living room, with lightning and thunder. Everyone had a sense of crisis in their hearts. They had a premonition that, if the lightning and this dark cloud struck down, none of them present would survive. The old man in Taoist robes saw this scene and his face changed wildly, exclaiming, "One thought and the array is completed. It really is a thought and the array is completed." Lu Chuan snorted coldly, retracted the magical power of the purple cloud bead, and stood with his hands behind his back. Now you know what a real magic weapon is. Chapter 74. This is a misunderstanding. The living room was dead silent. Everyone was pale, and the throbbing brought by the terrifying thundercloud just now remained in their hearts. Qi Zhenyan looked at Lu Chuan in disbelief. His eyes fell on the inconspicuous bracelet on his wrist. He never thought that this was such a terrible magic weapon. The old man with a goat beard looked pale, and looked at Lu Chuan solemnly. After taking a deep breath, he said, "Among the cultivators, there is a lineage that is very good at illusion. What you just showed us is not necessarily true. It may also be an illusion created by you." "Really?" Lu Chuan glanced at him, and activated the purple cloud pearl again. A pressure appeared. The sky star plate on the old man with a goat beard began to tremble violently. Not only the sky star plate, but also the night pearls, peachwood swords, bells and other items of the others also trembled. It was as if the common people saw the emperor, and they had an instinctive fear and trembled. What's going on? Several people looked at their respective magic weapons with horror. Not long after, the sky star plate trembled to the limit, and then there was a bang, and it exploded and shattered into powder. The night pearl, the peachwood sword and the bell exploded immediately afterwards. Bang, bang, bang. Several magic tools became waste. Lu Chuan looked at the old man with a goat beard again. "Do you still think this is an illusion?" The old man with a goat beard limped and sat directly on the ground. He stared at the broken sky star plate in a daze, regretting why he had to say that. Several masters looked at the old man with a goat beard speechlessly. At that time, it was obvious whether what Lu Chuan showed was real or an illusion. The old man with a goat beard was obviously stubborn because of his face, and as a result, their magic tools suffered. The old man in Taoist robes bowed respectfully to Lu Chuan. "Young friend, we have offended you before. Please forgive us." "You are right. Our magic weapon is just a toy compared to yours. We are too self-righteous." The others quickly agreed. Yes, it is our honor to see the real magic weapon today. The power of the magic weapon just now is like a god's descent. We admire it." Lu Chuan looked at the old man with goat beard. "Now I say your magic weapon is not in my eyes. Are you convinced?" The old man with goat beard had a complicated expression. It was obvious that he had already convinced. But he has always been respected and arrogant, and he is nearly 80 years old, so he can't bow to a young man in his 20s. He gritted his teeth and said, "You destroyed my magic weapon. Why should I obey you?" Lu Chuan's face sank, and the purple cloud bead flashed again. The old man in Taoist robes quickly persuaded him. "Why are you doing this? Didn't you feel the power of the magic weapon?" The old man with goat beard stood up from the ground, gritting his teeth, staring at Lu Chuan and said, "Boy, your magic weapon is indeed unexpected, but you destroyed my magic weapon for no reason. This matter cannot be easily exposed. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Your magic weapon is indeed terrible, but Master Qi and I are close friends. If you destroy my magic weapon, he will do justice for me." Several masters wanted to persuade him, but they were silent after hearing this. Qi Xianggang can become a master, so he should not be underestimated. In addition, Lu Chuan just showed the power of the purple cloud pearl slightly, so they all felt that Lu Chuan might not be Qi Xianggang's opponent. In this situation, where both sides are not easy to mess with, the best thing to do is to shut up. Lu Chuan asked, "Are you talking about Qi Xianggang?" The old man with a goat beard showed a hint of arrogance on his face. "Yes. No matter how powerful your magic weapon is, can it be more powerful than his? Boy, the title of master is not something that everyone can have. If you know what's good for you, apologize to me now and let this matter go, and I will also say a few good words for you in front of Master Qi. Otherwise I will let Master Qi take your life and take away your magic weapon, and your life will be ruined." Lu Chuan couldn't help laughing. He thought about it and said jokingly, "Okay, then I'll wait." The old man with a goat beard looked disdainful. "Stupid." The others also shook their heads. In their opinion, it was not wise to go against Qixiangang. Qi Zhenlan came over, looked at Lu Chuan with some worry, and said, Lu Chuan, you should leave quickly. Master Qi is not as simple as you think. If you really wait for him to come, you will be the only one who suffers. Master Qi and I are from the same family, and we can talk a few words. I will ask him for you when the time comes. Lu Chuan smiled. Mr. Qi, thank you for your kindness, but there is no need for me to leave. You will understand when Qixiangang comes. Qi Zhenlan sighed helplessly, stepped aside and stopped talking. Not long after, a figure, surrounded by several young people, walked towards the living room. The old man in Taoist robes stood up and exclaimed, Master Qi is here. Everyone turned their heads to look. The old man with a goatee showed a hint of excitement on his face, turned his head, and glanced at Lu Chuan. Boy, even if you regret it now, you have no chance. Qixiangang entered the living room accompanied by several apprentices. The old man with a goat beard hurried over. Master Qi, please help me. Qixiangang nodded to him, and his eyes swept across the living room. When he saw Lu Chuan, he was stunned. Then he became extremely excited, pushed the old man with a goat beard away, and walked quickly towards Lu Chuan. The old man with a goat beard was confused and swallowed the words on his lips. Qixiangang came to Lu Chuan, bowed respectfully, and shouted, Master Lu, what a coincidence, I can meet you here. It seems that my visit today is not in vain. Everyone gasped. Master. Master Qi actually called him master. Only those above the master can be called master. Has Lu Chuan reached this level? No wonder he has such a terrifying magic weapon. I should have thought of it earlier. Qi Zhenlan was stunned. In addition to being a martial arts master, Lu Chuan is also a Taoist master. Is he still a human? The old man with a goat beard's face changed wildly. His legs softened, and he almost fell to the ground again. He looked at Lu Chuan in disbelief, muttering, This is impossible. This is impossible. Lu Chuan smiled at Qixiangang and said, Your best friend wants you to kill me. What are you going to do? Qixiangang was so scared that he trembled. Master Lu is really joking. Even if I'm given 100 courage, I dare not have such an idea. Excuse me, Master Lu, who is using such despicable means to provoke the relationship between you and me? Lu Chuan pointed at the old man with a goatee. Qixiangang turned his head to look. The old man with a goatee cast a pleading look at him. Qixiangang narrowed his eyes slightly, his expression changed, and finally took a deep breath, and said to Lu Chuan seriously, Master Lu, this is a misunderstanding. Oh, what misunderstanding? Lu Chuan asked. Qixiangang looked at the old man with a goat beard indifferently. This man is not my best friend. We are just casual friends. Master Lu, please don't be angry with me because of him. Lu Chuan smiled slightly, walked up to the old man with a goat beard, and asked, Do you still want to take my life and my magic weapon? Chapter 75 Refusal to invest. The old man with a goat beard was trembling all over, his face was pale, and finally he knelt in front of Lu Chuan with a face full of collapse, kowtowed and bowed. I dare not. Please spare my life, master. Lu Chuan said coldly, I dare not? Didn't you say it very firmly just now? The old man with a goat beard quickly raised his hand and slapped his face. I'm self-righteous. I'm blind. I'm disrespectful to the elderly. Please forgive me, master. Lu Chuan's expression eased. For the sake of Master Qi and Mr. Qi, I will not bother with you this time, but next time, I will definitely not show mercy. The old man with a goat beard kowtowed quickly. Thank you, master. I will definitely remember this lesson. Get up. Lu Chuan said. The old man with a goat beard stood up and became extremely restrained. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Qixiangang asked curiously, Master, I wonder why he angered you? The old man in Taoist robes recounted the whole story. Qixiangang was shocked and looked at Lu Chuan and said, Master, can you let me see your magical weapon? Lu Chuan demonstrated the power of the purple cloud pearl to Qixiangang. Qixiangang was so excited after watching it that he almost knelt down and kowtowed to Lu Chuan. Then he asked the same question he asked Lu Chuan last time. Master, are you really unwilling to accept me as your disciple? Lu Chuan looked helpless. Master Qi, please don't embarrass me. Qixiangang looked lonely. Master, don't blame me. I'm asking too much. The rest of the people were full of emotion. Qi Xianggang only dared to be Lu Chuan's apprentice, so what about them? I'm afraid they don't even have the qualifications to be disciples. Everyone discussed the matter of cultivation together. Not long after, Qi Xianggang and several masters stood up, said goodbye to Lu Chuan respectfully, and left Qi Zhenlian's mansion. Qi Zhenlian looked at Lu Chuan with a complicated expression and said, "Lu Chuan, I underestimated you again. I didn't expect that you not only have outstanding martial arts talent, but also have such terrifying achievements in cultivation. You are really unparalleled in the world. No wonder Miss Ning would choose you as her boyfriend." Lu Chuan smiled. "Mr. Qi, you are too kind." Qi Zhenlian said seriously, "I'm not flattering you. It is absolutely from the bottom of my heart." Lu Chuan changed the subject. "What exactly did Mr. Qi want to talk to me about?" Qi Zhenlian remembered the business and said quickly, "Recently, there is a very important project in Kyoto, which happens to be in charge of the Ning family. I want to seek some cooperation from it. I would like to ask you to say a few good words for me in front of Miss Ning." As he said that, he took out a bank card and handed it to Lu Chuan. "There are 10 million in this card, which is my little gift." Lu Chuan raised his eyebrows and thought that the reward alone was 10 million. How big must this project be? He didn't answer and said, "I'll talk to Ningxin. As for how she will deal with it, I don't know. Just give the money and consider it as a favor for Mr. Qi's help last time." Qi Zhenlian didn't insist. "Thank you very much." Lu Chuan asked curiously, "What is the background of Ningxin's family? It seems that you are all afraid of her." Qi Zhenlian was a little surprised. "You and her are boyfriend and girlfriend. Don't you know her identity?" Lu Chuan was a little embarrassed and said, "I haven't asked. In fact, we are pretending to be boyfriend and girlfriend." Qi Zhenlian smiled and said, "The Ning family is one of the 3 major families in Kyoto. It is rich enough to rival a country and has a pivotal position in the whole of China. Don't think that I can get the title of the richest man in Yancheng, but my property is not even a fraction of the Ning family. As the eldest daughter of the Ning family, Ningxin must be treated with respect." Lu Chuan was surprised. He didn't expect Ningxin to have such a big background. This is a bit inconsistent with the image of Ningxin chasing me for free movie websites. Come to think of it, among my 9 fiancés, there seems to be one with the surname Ning, and she is also in Kyoto. Could it be Ningxin? Lu Chuan's eyes widened. At that time, he only took a quick look at the 9 marriage certificates, and only remembered that there was a surname Ning, but he forgot a name. Qi Zhenlian asked in confusion, "What's wrong with you?" Lu Chuan came back to his senses and quickly said, "No, nothing. I suddenly remembered something. By the way, Mr. Qi, I also have something I want to ask you for help." Qi Zhenlian asked with a smile, "What is it?" Lu Chuan took out 3 jade bottles. These 3 bottles are 3 medicines that our clinic plans to launch, namely Piuandan, Yanqidan, and Beijidan. Piuandan can strengthen the body and replenish the essence. Even people who are weak and sick can become strong and full of strength after taking it. Yanqidan can nourish the spirit. No matter how severe the neurasthenia is, one pill can make you energetic. And Beijidan can make people immune to all poisons, and no matter what kind of poison it is, a Beijidan can save lives. You don't have to worry about the effect of the medicine. All we lack now is a suitable investment, and I can guarantee that this is definitely a business that will not lose money. I wonder if Mr. Qi is interested." Qi Zhenlian looked at the 3 jade bottles with a strange look on his face, thinking, why do these 3 medicines sound so much like the health products sold outside? And the effect is a bit exaggerated. How can there be such a powerful elixir in this world? It is simply the effect of magic elixir. As an investor with rich experience, he can foresee how badly Lu Chuan will lose money on these 3 medicines. Moreover, the market for health products in Yancheng has been completely controlled by the Zhao family. Investing in health products at this time is no different from burning money directly. In addition, Lu Chuan was too confident. Generally speaking, the more he emphasized that his business would not lose money, the more he would lose. Qi Zhenlian thought for a while and said tactfully, "Lu Chuan, it's not that I don't think highly of your 3 drugs, but the current situation is not suitable for investing in drugs. If you want to do business, I can give you some resources. As for selling drugs, I think it's better to stop losses as soon as possible. Hearing this, Lu Chuan smiled helplessly and bowed to Qi Zhenyan. I understand what Mr. Qi means, but I'm very confident in these 3 drugs. If Mr. Qi doesn't want to invest, then I will find someone else. Qi Zhenyan smiled apologetically and kindly reminded Lu Chuan, even if it is me, it is difficult to grab the market share of the Zhao family in the pharmaceutical market. You'd better think it over. Lu Chuan smiled and said, thank you for your kindness, Mr. Qi. I'll take my leave first. Coming out of Qi Zhenyan's mansion, Lu Chuan felt a little regretful. It seems that I can only find other investors. When I go to talk to Ningxin about the richest man Qi tomorrow, I'll ask her if she is interested in investing. Back home, Lu Chuan went into his room as soon as possible and found the box containing the marriage certificate. He had to confirm whether his fiancée named Ning was the same person as Ningxin. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.